Good morning, everyone. I will call this Committee of the Whole meeting to order. This meeting will be conducted in person and via conference call in accordance with Municipal Government Act Section 199. Council chambers will be open to members of the public and while continuing to use the current telecommuting process. If you want to join, please dial. I don't need to read that number because if they're listening to it, they're here. And we have an agenda before us. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Seeing none.
I'll move the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Motion's on the floor. Any discussion? I will call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. We will, if we discussion with the group here, can we save item 2 till after, or do we want to do that before? In camera.
Through the chair to the committee, we've put it so that you could discuss it before the budget discussions, and then we could leave and come back when you are finished with those discussions.
Okay.
So we put it first so you could
Okay.
deal with it.
So we have a closed session process. I'll move us into closed session. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. So I'd like, welcome back, everyone. There was no motions arising from in-camera sessions, so we'll move to item 3.1, 2025 Master Asset Management Plan Review. Go ahead, sir.
Morning. For those of you that are new, my name is Harry Kim. I'm the Manager of Information Services, and I'm here to do a review of our 2025 Master Asset Management Plan that we did earlier this year. There's been no changes, but we wanted to just before the budget season starts and whatnot, we just wanted to go over for the new members and old where we're presenting what we found with our asset management program in the past year. So just a brief history. We started the asset management journey in 2021, where we created our policy, and we did our initial bridge asset management plan. And our initial plan was to just go asset by asset, but we realized that it was going to take many years for us to go through each asset and kind of get a big picture of what we had. So we ended up pivoting and creating a master asset management plan where we got an overall overview of all our assets. So it's not deep dive into every asset, but we just kind of got a picture of where we're at with every asset. And the plan going forward is to supplement that with deep dive asset management plans where we're really looking at everything within that asset to updates and kind of update the master asset management plan. So what you have to see is just the master asset management plan with the updated information. And when someone asks about bridge asset management plan, you're not getting a 130-page document about bridges. You can just have an overlook, high level information about that in our county. So I wanted to go over some of our major findings and key highlights. So the county's total asset replacement cost is estimated to be at $766 million as of 2025. Every asset, when we have it over a year, over time, at different times and periods, it's gonna need replacement. So this is the number that we're looking at. Clearly, road network is one of the most highly cost asset that we have at $359.7 million, which accounts for almost 47% of our portfolio. Now, this number is going to vary depending on construction costs and whatnot. So in the recent years, it's gone up. So this number right now, it looks high. But technically, if that was to get, some kind of new technology comes in and that value comes down, it could go down, but it could also go up in the future, right? And our second most highest costing is bridges and culverts. And you can see the rest of the portfolio there as well. But some of the good news is that our condition data, we have almost 84% of our assets to be fair or better condition. Now, main consideration behind condition is year built. So we're estimating that if it was built at certain period, by now it's probably at certain condition. But we are able to enhance and not just use year built, we're able to use staff evaluation, what we can see to update that and say, even though it was built certain years and should be in poor quality, we're finding that these assets are in fair condition. So what we did right now is just get an overview. We didn't get a deep dive, but this is an area that could improve in the future when we do deep dives into specific assets, where we'll be able to get more accurate information. So our data confidence level right now is, I'd say, a medium, but it can, as we mature in our asset management program, that we expect that to get a little bit higher in our data confidence. A key component to life cycle analysis is the evaluation of the remaining service life. And this kind of shows right here that approximately 41% of our county infrastructure will require replacement within the next 10 years. And bridges are very big, notable of area of concern, where we have about 45.3 million in bridge assets anticipated to reach end of life within the next 6 to 10 years. And this graph shows some of the backlog meaning they're technically end of life already, but we have not replaced it. And you can see in the near and mid term capital pressures are mostly coming from the bridges. That value, I don't know if you're able to see, is each one of those bar represents 5-year periods. So when you see 70 million, that's 70 million within the next 5 years that we would have to use to replace assets. But you can see a lot of the immediate pressures that are coming from bridges, along with, again, road network, which was a big portion. And this is a 100-year projection. So you will see some assets becoming coming due for replacement again. So it's just a very high level overview of the graph, but you could see some of the bridges coming back for replacement and roads as well. But we just want to paint the picture. And then you see the 18 million line. That means we will have to average 18 million to meet this graph of costs. So, and that's, again, 18 million in every one of those years. Financial strategy. So as I mentioned, this asset management plan does include a financial strategy based on a historical 3-year analysis of capital funding sources, and that's sustainable funding. So we're spending about 5 million of our capital per year towards capital projects from sustainable funding, excluding any STIP funds or grants that we may get. And with that projection of 18, we are at a deficit of about 13 million. And this is present day values 2025, and it will likely change in future years with updates to this. So some of the key highlights are included in the package as well, but to highlight some of the next steps, we are presenting an updated asset management policy next week in the council meeting, where we're highlighting some of the updated steps that we're taking with the mention of master asset management plan and supplementing that with deep dives. And speaking of deep dives, we'll be looking to do utility and road deep dive asset management within the next year. I believe we do have some paved road analysis that's coming at some point next year, where we'll be able to use that information to see and project more accurately when we may need to replace some of the roads. Addition of assets within water treatment plants. So we're planning on including water treatment equipments. So we expect that value to go up. Right now it's just the pipes, but now we're going to try to include the equipments within treatment plants, because we do need to take into account of those assets. One thing that I didn't mention that I wanted to go back and mention is with the road network, that's just the paved road, not including the gravel roads. And you'll see that in the report. But gravel roads, because we have such an expansive network, if we were to replace them, it'd be at a almost $2 billion valuation. But they're more perpetual maintenance. We're not really replacing the gravel roads. So we excluded that from the calculation. So this is just for the paved road network.
You got bridges and culverts there, 2.4 million. Is that over the life of the 100 years? Because in the short term, we're going to need, I'm thinking 10 million almost a year to get caught up.
That's the, yes, over,
100-year average.
yes, average annual, yes.
So
So there's immediate pressures there, but if we were to have an asset management program in place and able to schedule that out.
my other comments till after.
Yeah, just to quickly conclude, so it's a big document, the 2025 asset management plan. But it's also a very informative process where it's able to highlight a lot of at a high level, a lot of what we have and what we have to deal with and project. It's a nice step, but asset management is absolutely a journey. I'd say this is a first step, and as we mature in our asset management program, this information is going to become way more accurate, and we'll be able to use data-driven information and kind of project and try to space out and plan a little bit better with our budgeting in the coming years.
So also helps setting up a reserve policy and how much money we got to have there, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, whenever we add an asset, we have to take into account of total cost of ownership. It's easy to just add something, but there's also maintenance. When we have to replace that eventually, that's also a consideration. So that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any more questions.
Thank you very much. A lot of information here. I'm sure there's lots of questions.
Yeah,
Go
I'll
ahead,
go.
Shannon.
I had just a couple of questions, and it's interesting, like some of us that have been here, we've seen this before and yet read it again and you've got more questions. It's just good information. It's a lot, like you said, but it does, different things occur to you at different times, I guess. You talk about sustainable revenue sources, 5 million. So we spend way more than that on capital every year. What are we considering sustainable revenue sources? Is that that is money in reserves, or that's, I'm not sure what that means.
Through the chair, yeah, that would be through funding that we are guaranteed. Whereas funding like debt, like debt or grants, you're not 100% guaranteed that.
So it'd be reserves and that's all. It's like, I just don't, I can't,
Without going into reserves,
without going into reserves?
believe so.
Okay.
I think Joel can clarify potentially, but
Uh,
So through the chair, if I recall from when we were developing the report, I believe that a large part of that was we generally historically have had a certain set value of transfer to reserves annually,
Okay.
and that amount can change obviously depending on the reserves program and the strategy taken. But a big piece of that was kind of related to that portion, how much we're putting aside.
So this would include amounts that we have a policy saying we're going to transfer this amount to reserves every year.
Through the chair, it's less to do with the policy itself of just the historical budget and the budget approval for that given year, and then carried forward over multiple years.
Okay.
And then we have a reserve policy also for individual reserves that just dictates certain balances and what they're for, and a lot of detail about like bridge reserves or roads reserves, and they're designated for those certain asset categories that Harry was referring to.
I find it just hard to get my head around that. I mean, we spend way more than 5 million, and I get that a lot of comes from grants
Grants,
and other sources, but sort of makes it, I don't know, yeah. Okay, I guess I understand. And then I did want to talk a little bit about gravel roads. So I understand that you couldn't possibly put every gravel road in here, and we are not likely to replace gravel roads, but we do have some in the county that are problematic, and I'm just curious how we're tracking those. Like, there is the odd gravel road that probably could use some upgrading, and if we're not considering those in this asset management plan, are we considering them somewhere else? Is there ever a consideration that a certain road like is wet every spring and it's impassable every spring? So can we not do something about those, or?
yeah, I think Cody can also help answer that question. But in terms of asset management, we just excluded it because of that number, and it was going to skew it. But it will probably have to be a case by case situation where a certain year we'll look at that, and Cody can bring that up, and that's a separate on top of our usual asset management program, something that we will likely have to consider.
So I think it would be a good idea if we set some, I don't know, kind of a parameter around, like if a certain part of a road is closed every year, that maybe we should have a policy that says, like, if we're not providing a level of service, that maybe we need to address it. So anyways, I'm just looking for a spot to do that.
Yeah, through the chair, I just also wanted to just add a little bit of point to that sort of that $18 million demand that's on our assets. That's if you spread all of that 100 years out and say that's the average, but we are spending more than that because of the investments that council has been doing, as well as the backlogs of the assets that we do already have. So there is we are taking a lot of the demand and all of that and dealing with it. And that's why we're seeing a downward trend, say, as you would see in the budget, to our reserves.
Welcome to the microphone, sir.
Hello, Council. Cody Zimmerman with administration. So through the chair, just to answer the question, I guess more so with the gravel, we did exclude it because it is such a high dollar amount and it'll skew the entire plan out of whack and just we won't get a lot of value that way. So really with the gravel, we don't have a good overall inspection of the conditions of each individual road. So we really need to do that deep dive, figure out what those conditions are and then incorporate it back into the program. So eventually that dollar amount will get put in there. In the background, even though you don't see it here, we still have our 5-year road construction plan and longer term plan in the background that we are bringing forward, we are implementing, and we are reconstructing roads every year. And the primary focus on that, really we look at roads where there's safety issues, where there are high volumes of traffic, whether it's additional operational measures that need to be done year over year on those. So we are taking those roads first and those become the priority. And then from that, we look at nice to haves as opposed to, public safety and must haves.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Mr. Habs.
So my comment would be for Harry, like, I hope we're not spending too much time on the 100-year projection.
No, we're not. That's how our contractor PSD has kind of spread out the values, but we are aware of immediate life cycle, and which is not 100 years. It's every asset has different life cycle, and we do take that into account. And that replacement value is based on today and taking into account those specific replacement cycle numbers.
Just a question on the amount of miles and kilometers, I guess we got roads. A lot of the farms are consolidated like crazy nowadays, and a lot of people are not necessarily every quarter section. Do they have a house on it anymore? Are we taking a look at also downgrading our need for roads when they're not being used at all? That's a general question. My road is used.
Staff or Cody will speak to it too, but we've taken car counts and stuff into consideration when we're looking at roads. And I think we're developing that program more and more every year, but go ahead.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. So we do traffic counts annually and we're kind of tracking the higher volume roads versus the average use roads. Lower volume roads wouldn't make it anywhere on a replacement plan unless there was some sort of safety concern. And hopefully we can address that with a project that's a lot more focused, right? So just focusing on that one safety concern and not doing the entire road. As far as maintenance of those road goes, with our graders, operators, our gravel program and stuff, we do adjust the service level of maintenance on them. So something that is maybe 10 cars a day or something like that or less, it might only get gravelled every 5 years, right? As opposed to our standard of 3 years. Higher volumes are 1 to 2 years depending. And again, with the grading, it might only get bladed every second time as opposed to every time. There is a kind of a fine line there with the grading where you do need to blade those roads on occasion just to keep the weeds and the grass off of them so you don't lose them completely. But we do adjust operationally, and then, like I said, just with the capital plan, more targeted, focused approaches to dealing with trouble areas.
Thank you. Anyone else? A lot of information. When I look at this, I mean, it's a tremendous amount of work, and it's a good guideline for going forward. And it's all how we, I'll just back up. When I drive around in different counties and things like that, I look and I think we do have a really good maintenance program on a lot of our assets already. This kind of puts it into more of a formal document. And we've had really good staff looking after things for a long time. This puts it into reality. And some of this, it's a target. Can we meet it? You know, that's where council comes in. Do we increase a bunch of taxes or do we look for investment? Do we borrow money? There's all kinds of ways of doing it, which is, we'll have the, when we come to budgets and what we want to do. I think right now we've had discussions over the bridge files are definitely something that are all coming up. Previous council has heard about it for a while. There's been lots in the budget about it, and that is something that you cannot avoid to repair because it becomes a safety factor. But whenever we pave a road or something, it always comes, the maintenance is more. It's how would I put it? It's put off in big chunks instead of grading it every little while as a gravel road. It's bigger chunks of service for the life of it. So let's go ahead.
Started talking philosophy, so now I'm going to the bridge files. Last year when we were developing this, I didn't have much problem with the bridge files. I've had a few rated bridges in my area. I've had them for 25 years, ever since I got elected. But all of a sudden one morning we had them all rated at 54 ton. And it's causing havoc in my area. I don't have as many roads as the rest of the county. It's harder to get around, and just about everyone has a bridge on it that's rated. So what are the resource people and the farmers to do? Only thing we can do is buy another truck. It's a lot cheaper to fix the bridge. This is a paper exercise for what it is. I can see the benefit on setting reserves and planning for the future. But when you have something thrown at you like the sudden downgrading of just about every bridge in my area, every bridge in the county, that's massive. And I'm hearing a lot out there. And I'm sure, I can't believe everybody's bought another truck. There's still just as many. And I'm thinking these bridges are going to deteriorate faster. I think we have to speed it up and get them replaced. No doubt about it. So this plan is, it fills an accounting need for, so we can validate our reserves and how much we're going to tax. But also it's short on the immediate need when these bridges get downgraded. And another issue I have with the bridges, they were all downgraded. We've got trucks, we've got tractors. They could be on paper here, wore out, but yet we're using them. They're good for another 5 years. Or maybe we have a new one and it's just no good at all. These bridges, I feel like we got to test some of them so we can validate that there's so many of them are been rated. We can test our roads, we can put weight on it. Yeah, it's tested. We can see the dips and the wear it's taking. But a bridge, no, it's once you see some damage on it, you can't even be safely walking on it. So I would still like council to consider, we got to get some testing, our staff come up with an idea, because this is really going to hurt our rural economy. Especially if they build more pipelines, there's going to be more fluid hauled. There, that's my take.
Just for the new councilors here, there was some discussion about this previously. There was a report that we could get circulated. There's some pros and cons of each. There's always some easier said solutions, and actual reality is kind of different too. But unless staff wants to speak to some of that again.
Sure, I can. Oh, sorry. I can go ahead. It really just reiterating a little bit what was in that last report, and I think when it comes to the bridges, the important thing to, where it feels like it was downgraded, and I'm trying to remember all the details of the report. It's a little bit complicated, but the way I understand it is the roads were actually upgraded across the board, across the province to a higher load rating. And then the issue with there is the bridges at the time that they were designed would have been designed for lower load ratings than what the roads are now designed for. And so it leaves some uncertainty of whether those bridges can actually carry those loads that the roads are now rated for. And then there was a discussion of there is the possibility of doing a review of those bridges to see if they can actually handle the higher loads that the roads are now rated to. We did have the discussion with the engineering consultants about that, and they did say they did exercise some caution to that because of the bridge code changes over the years as well. And they said there is a decent likelihood if they actually go and do that engineering review, they may actually have to downgrade the bridge even further. And so it's just that risk that is there. It may be that they can rate it to the higher low rating, but there is a risk that it might stay the same or even go lower because they have to analyze it to the current bridge codes. They can't analyze it to the older bridge codes, and the newer ones, per their explanation, are more conservative than the old ones. And so it's just some things for council to consider. We can go down that road, but once they've done that analysis, we have to live with the results of that analysis. So just something to consider.
And just for clarification, the bridge code is not something this council sets or this county. This is set by the province of Alberta, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, because it's technically their bridges that were put in and we're maintaining them. Sorry, Burl, and then yourself.
So I guess the question is, like, when they put the signs up, was it a downgrade? Like when you put the 54 ton up, or was there no regulations before and that, like, was it a true actual downgrade? Just so I can give that back to my ratepayers, because some of those guys are wondering, like, they're like, well, how come you downgraded it? And I'm like, it's not like there was an old sign there that said 80 ton and then you put a new one in said 54.
Through the chair. So if the bridge is rated to the same rating as the road, then it doesn't need the sign. But if the bridge is rated lower than the road, then you need the sign in. And so the putting out all those signs was really just an outcome of the roads being upgraded. And so I said, okay, now if we don't put the sign up, then the bridge is automatically rated to that higher low rating as well. So then you have to put the sign up to say, hey, as far as we know, this bridge was designed to this load rating, which is now lower than the increased road load rating. And so we had to put the signs up. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Councillor Kester.
So that begs the question, why do we upgrade the roads if we can't drive down them? Right? We gotta, I know it just sprung up on us, but do we have to keep upgrading the roads if the bridges can't handle it?
For sure.
Even if there's just one bridge on the road, it effectively changes the whole dynamics of it.
So going back to the master asset plan, any further questions? This will affect us in budgeting with something that's now, it's one of these things now that you know, right? Careful of the information you ask for, because once you get it, same with the bridges, once you test it, you could not like the information you're getting, but it's by a professional through a process. And it could be worse. You could be hoping it's good and it could come back way worse than what you're looking for in the first place. I think that's what staff was cautioning us about with that particular file. If I see nothing further, motion to accept as information.
Also move.
Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. It's something, a lot of work, and it's going to be a document, live document moving forward. I'm sure there'll be more information put into it. I don't think the information will get any better the more information we gather, but hopefully. We move on to item 3.2, the draft 2026 interim capital and operating budget. Joel. I warn you, he really likes his job. But he's very good. He's a very good presenter. Now that bar's pretty high.
All right, good morning, committee members. Joel from Financial Services here to present the draft interim budget. Just going to do a brief PowerPoint presentation for you. So it's kind of the start of a new council cycle. And so before I kind of get into things, I thought I'd just for the members' benefit, just talk through how we've kind of approached this in prior years. And if it's amenable to yourselves, we can kind of continue and change that up as you see fit. So normally with the interim budget, in the past, we brought the draft to committee late November to present kind of the capital plan and some of the operating items for the forthcoming year. The operating budget will be shown in 3 years cycles. That's and the capital on a 5-year cycle. That's based on the Municipal Government Act and the requirements for budgeting. But right now, our kind of focus is typically on the upcoming year, and then we have that 4 to 5-year plan beyond that. So what we do usually in the interim budget, again, is we focus on a lot of the services and capital requirements for the upcoming year and get an idea from the committee or council on maybe opinions or ideas of where they want things to go. And then we do 2 budgets, and so we also bring back a final budget usually at the end of March, early April. And the reason we do that is it gives us an opportunity to amend the budget with more detail. For example, the audit for 2025 is finished at that point, so you have a better idea of how your capital projects ended in the prior year. And so you have an idea of exactly how much money you might need to carry forward. We have an idea about the requisitions from, like, say, the school tax, and the more accurate reflection of that, and that allows us to reflect that on the tax bills. We do that typically at the same meeting, the final budget and the property tax rate bylaw. So by splitting into 2, it allows us to kind of like spread out the focus a little bit on the different aspects of it. And I think I touched a little bit on that in the report itself, in the committee package, but just thought it'd be good to talk through that part of it. So just kind of briefly go through the interim timeline that we take typically in a year. We start in summer because I love to put the managers through the ringer all summer long and go through the budget. We get them to bring forward their plans, the things that they might need for the upcoming budget year. And that includes operating and capital. And then by mid-October, we've kind of consolidated everything up and we start discussing kind of the presentation, the high-level strategies with the senior leadership, and then compile the draft interim budget from there. And so that you can see on November 25th, that's where we are today. The draft package is provided. So the other thing we've done in prior years with the committee of the whole is because the budget is a pretty substantive package. It's, you know, what I think the capital in itself is 130 pages long. And so we've kind of presented it and then given it to the committee. Usually we'll give them about a week and a half with any follow-up questions or ideas or concerns. In prior years, they've emailed those out, and then we've compiled those together and do a subsequent report with the either before or along with the final budget approval, just to answer those questions or address those changes. And that's kind of just what I've talked through here. So typically mid to late December is when we approve the interim budget, and that gives us the MGA authority to spend in the next fiscal year. And then briefly touch on the final budget. This is all things I just talked about here. So January through February, this year might be a little bit different because council will have their strategic planning where they'll set their priorities and their specific goals for the upcoming 4 years. And that will likely drive some of the budget decisions that we or council makes in the final budget, and corresponding tax strategy as well with that. That's a big piece of it. The plan is to do a community survey as well. Administration felt that would be a good thing to correspond with that final budget and with the strategic planning as well. Bring that to some of those findings with the final budget as well. Just to touch on the municipal price index. So this is a newer thing that administration developed and calculated last year. So we use some external and internal information essentially to, it's like a consumer price index. It's kind of give you the Coles notes of it. I won't get into the detail now, but we recognize that the county, we have a different basket of goods, so to speak, that we purchase in order to fulfill services and infrastructure than the CPI, like the Stats Canada Consumer Price Index, right? We don't buy bread, we don't buy milk. Maybe we buy milk for council meetings, but so other than that, we buy roads, we buy surfacing, we buy aggregate, right? And so the MPI is a more targeted inflationary index that we developed last year. We'll bring that back for final budget as well. The reason we do that at final budget as opposed to interim is it gives you more time in the year to get more accurate projections on those inflationary costs and the drivers behind them. So, and that can help drive and inform council's decisions on that final budget. And then finally, in March, we have the assessment information ready. I believe it's at the end of February typically. And so that's the base of the property taxes. We have the updated assessment values and then the tax rates are calculated on that assessment base. So that's when we really get into the details of the specific tax revenue, the amount requested, the split between the different classes. That's when we get into all that detail. So before we get into it, I did want to just kind of note, just to kind of step back from the numbers. The county is very service orientated, and a lot of these things that you see in the budget, the majority, all of it, is supporting these services that, and this is just a handful. There's much more there that you see, like whether it's dust control or solid waste transfer station, by law enforcement. There's a lot of support from the budget, and that's kind of the bedrock to all of the service levels and the services that the county provides to the residents and businesses. So it's just something that I just wanted to kind of provide that as a 1,000-foot picture of what we're looking at when we're talking about the budget. So I'll just kind of go through the operating budget. Just some quick summary items here. So we continue to do significant infrastructure investment. This includes engineering and planning and studies in all different areas, the water, wastewater services, and those kind of divisions. Just as a note to the current draft, we put around a 2% placeholder for municipal tax increase, just to account for growth or inflation. As noted, typically the decision on that tax rate is kind of made at the final budget time. So that's just been as an inflationary placeholder for this budget draft. As mentioned too, the assessment information will be available at the end of February. Another reference point to keep in your mind is just that 1% tax revenue increase equates to about $300,000 of additional revenue or change in revenue, if you want to look at it that way. And I had mentioned this as well. Some aspects of the interim budget are estimates, and we adjust them later once we get to final budget and we have more well-known figures at that point. Some notable changes for the 2026 operating budget. So the committee is probably well aware of this project. It's on its planning stage, the Agricultural Service Board Summer Tour. I think the planning started in 2025 and the actual tour itself, I believe, is in next year. So a lot of the revenue and the costs are in the draft 2026 budget. Just as a note too, you'll see that if you're looking at those specific cost or revenue areas in the detailed operating budget. You'll note that the economic development budget shows 0, and that's simply because we've consolidated it into another division. Doing the function there. Another big thing is the implementation of the internal waste transfer roll-off bins. That was something that was approved by, I believe it was earlier this year or late last year by council in purchasing some roll-off bins and managing that program in-house. Another big step forward is the raw water line for Goldfinch will be complete. I believe it's close to completion already, so that'll be in service for 2026. And just a little bit of good news here is the local area pension plan rates have gone down, and that's for employees and employer. And so just for the upcoming year, that's about $90,000 in savings for on the employer side anyways. Another part to consider here is we've decreased the expected investment income. This is a combination of just the declining reserve balance because those reserves are held in investments and cash and in the banking. And so because the base value of the total held goes down, then the investment income goes down, as well as the market rates have come down since the interest rates have decreased over the last couple of years, which is good on the side of inflation, but not as good for investment returns. The other thing that we've started to do on administratively is to project multi-year tax growth increases for those projects that are very large, and we have a more kind of high level of confidence of maybe the value of the assessment value, as well as the confidence of the completion or the a high degree of confidence that the project will be completed in that year, let's say. And so we're trying to do some work around that multi-year projection, feeling like that will be a good tool to look at the revenue increase in terms of like the tax projections over, say, a 3 or 4 year cycle. So this is just a kind of a quick summary of the operating budget. What you can see here is the base budget, the gross value of it, the $56.4 million. And so what we're trying to do here is just to show when we back out some of the non-county costs, like the requisitions, and that's mainly the school tax, because we do have to budget for that, and it is in the budget package. But just recognizing that that's a flow-through thing. We collect the money through the tax bill, and then we pay that to the province. So it's a net zero impact to the county from a monetary perspective. And then also the transfers to reserves for future savings kind of back that out. What we're trying to show is what's approximately the effective operating costs for the draft budget, and how is that paid for by the different funds. So if we look at that $40 million in the net operating expense, and when we take out about $6 million, and that is all other revenue sources. So that would be like permit fees, development fees, utility levies, and all of those kind of things. And so that leaves us with about $33.8 million in operating expense that we just wanted to show, like how does that get paid for in the mix of them on the bottom table. So the current draft budget, again, with that approximate 2% placeholder increase, is around $32 million to fund those expenses, with the residual of it coming from reserves. And we've just split the reserves into 2 lines there. What we started doing last year is segregating out those operating items that were one-time in nature. They weren't an ongoing cost, just so they could be, it's just a better visualization. It may be that council doesn't want to pay for one-time costs through the taxes in that given year, right? But that being said, it is a drawdown to reserves. So it's just, we've just kind of segregated those 2 lines just for information.
Or we're not using reserves for operating expenses, and what that looks like. Because that, what that 0.7 is there, is it not, to help pay for the operating out of reserves? I'm tired, I've always been against it. I'll say it again, I don't think we should be using reserves to pay down operating.
Yes, through the chair. So we can certainly do that. And what we did this for the 2025 process with our final budget is when we had an idea of the assessment values and a more accurate picture of what the tax levers would look like in order to generate or offset that value. During that presentation, we had shown kind of some options of what that could look like in terms of the amount that may or may not come from the reserves. So we can certainly provide that information. Should ask if there's any other further questions before I proceed. All right, so this is just kind of a summary. It's not the operating budget per se, but just gives committee members an opportunity, just with it being a new council cycle, of the last 5 years, the history of the CPI as a reference point there, against the historical tax rate increases that have been approved by council in prior years. And through the chair, if it's amenable, I can certainly provide this package, this PDF, to the committee members after the meeting.
Please do that.
Yes. There'll be a test as well. All right, so
Just a curious question. When I looked at that last setup there, does that mean that the tax increases in the county have not kept up as they should have to cover funds, because it's not even close to the CPI?
through the chair, conceptually, that is one way that you could look at it, and that is actually another reason why we developed the use of the municipal price index as well, because this is a good way to look at that context. But then furthermore, when we provide that municipal price index number on there, it'll look a little bit different than this, but a similar story. That's a correct assessment.
Go ahead.
21 and 22, of course, would have been coming out of COVID, right?
I was going to say the same thing, just in defense of the previous council, that they were just very cautious, didn't want to burden people with tax increase when they were struggling with businesses and things coming out of COVID. So yeah, right or wrong, that was the reasoning.
All right, so we'll switch over to just a summary of the capital budget. And then what we can do after that is we'll go through the project pages of the each individual project for the capital. So what you'll find at the start of the capital package is we've listed all the 2026 projects with certain criteria, and two of them, the first one being implication. And so as we've developed the budget, we ask managers just to mark based on these different criteria of what that might look like. And so when I open the budget, I'll go to this page just to show you the detail, but these are the criteria that and the definition that we've asked them to categorize them by. And again, this is all in the budget package itself, and we'll kind of briefly touch on it just so you know where it is in the booklet. But this is a summary of that implication list for the 2026 projects and just how they work out and have been flagged in terms of their implication, whether it's deferrable with impact or non-deferrable or deferrable. The second criteria that we had asked to apply against this is the type of project. And this kind of fits in a little bit with the asset management aspect of it. So those would be the ones that you see first there, the capital repair or replacement. That's kind of the renewal of an existing asset, or if it's a new asset. A great example of new infrastructure would be the Goldfinch raw water line. It's a new development. It's a new asset that's now in place or finishing up. And then we just have an other category if there's a contingency or a regular recurring item I believe in the capital plan, we often have a sidewalk replacement budget. It's an annual amount, and they just kind of decide to prioritize that money in whatever community is relevant in that year. And again, this is just a chart summarizing the 2026 totals by that category, by the type of projects that we have. So you can see the new being about 40%, the repair and replacement 60%, and the other is less than 1%. So just to quickly touch on the capital funding methods. So this is how we pay for the capital in a given year. We have this listed here. It's the cost of contribution agreements. This would be if, let's say, a new developer comes in and you're wanting to build large infrastructure for that specific area. If a lot of it is for the purposes of those new developers, then they might be obligated to contribute a certain cost of that infrastructure. So that's what that funding method is. The rest of them are relatively straightforward. Debt and debentures are the same thing. We have grants. And so grants, we have a mix of those. And we're planning to bring forward to council shortly a report on some more detail about what kind of grants are available, how they are used. There's some that are just automatically given to each municipality, like the local government fiscal framework. It's an annual amount that's just allotted to the county. And then there's some that are application based, like the STIP program, which is mainly for bridges and bridge files. And those are based on awards and applications. So you may get them or you may not. And then the remaining of those are essentially all reserves, the designated ones being the policy reserves that we have. So say we have a bridge reserve, a paved road reserve, we have all sorts of them. And so those are the designated ones because council has made a policy to designate a certain fund, and that's what it can be used for, and it's restricted in its use. The equipment disposals, that's just a way of showing when we sell, let's say, an old grader in the year, or we take these some of the vehicles to auction, we get some proceeds back, but the money goes right back into the equipment reserve. So it's effectively, it's the same as using reserves, but we just like to show it as a separate line in the budget, just to show that we're getting value back from some of those older assets. And then finally, unappropriated surplus or reserves. Those are, again, they're just accumulation of economic net value that hasn't been put in a designated reserve by the county. So those last three are kind of very similar. So just as a note, property taxes, they don't typically directly pay for capital. They're budgeted transfers in and out of from the operating budget. And so that's just something to kind of keep in the back of your mind, that capital is generally paid for just these other sources that you see above there. They are indirectly paid for by the property tax. So with the 2026 draft, this is how the current funding proportions are set. And this goes back to the page that we just looked at. So you can see the equipment sales, the designated reserves, all of the similar funding sources. We've just broken them out based on what our projected source of funding would be at this point. You'll see that note on the bottom that at this time we've applied for 4 STIP grants, bridge file grants for the 2026 year. The STIP program is amazing. They pay for 75% of the program. So there's good value in that. They may not all be approved. They likely won't all be, but we can adjust the final budget when we get more information. But again, it's a great grant program. We get a lot of assistance from the province with those. And so that's kind of a placeholder in there for now. And you can just kind of see the breakdown of the funding sources for that total budget. Just want to talk quickly through our debt. So the capacity of the municipality's debt is determined by the province. There's a debt servicing limit that's set. It's based on this formula. We won't really get into it, even though I have the details here. But you can see just based on the last audited statement that the remaining debt limit is 53 million approximately. And the servicing limit, that's the annual debt and principal amounts that we're allowed to pay, is around $9 million. This is before the Goldfinch raw water project was finished, which we also have some debt on. I'll just kind of go to the next slide so you can see what our projected debt will be So you can see there's around $8 million from that raw water line that gets added to it. There's still, if you consider $50 million in debt capacity at that 2024 date, there's still quite a bit of capacity there. If council would choose to fund with debt, it could be an option going forward. Just on the last couple of slides here. So other capital budget information. I just kind of touched on these a little bit too. Funding for projects, it may shift once we get to the final budget. Again, as we have more knowledge about which 2025 projects, where they stand, if they need to be carried forward, if there's some adjustments on 2026 projects, sometimes we'll get some preliminary engineering results and some more solid figures between the interim and the final budget that will just let us concrete our numbers a little bit more. So there'll be some changes there. Yeah, and just to conclude, I thought this would be a good way to talk through just the overall budget flow of cash and monetary value, how it's spent through the year. So you can see in that middle funnel is the revenue sources, and this kind of goes back to that table that we looked at the start for the operating and how things are paid for. So we have grants, property taxes, user fees. These all go down and we get the cash for them. We either hold them in the bank or we put them in investments if we know we're not going to use them in the current year. And then from that overall balance of cash, that's from what we pay the salaries and fuel and parts and everything that is related to that the left side there, the operating budget. Or alternatively, on the capital budget, we buy land, we buy bridges, we repair bridges and all of those things. So that's kind of just a high level flow of what happens from the budget when we approve it. So that concludes my budget presentation here. Available for any questions, and if not, then we can proceed to the next step.
Thank you very much. Questions? Go ahead, Mr. Hibbs.
Thank you. That was very informative. When do we, I assume this year, 2025, we'll start to get some money back out of the Goldfinch raw water line. Any idea how much?
So through the chair, I think there's a few aspects of that. If we're talking about the operating aspect of it, once it's operational, we have a plan for putting in the fee structure, much like the utilities that we would charge for any community, fairly shortly. And in terms of the loan aspect of it, that one, so we funded that loan a little bit differently than traditional loans. We've actually realized some good value from that, some savings on interest in the 2025 year. And that one will be locked into place probably by the end of this year. And then it becomes kind of a fixed payment over a period of time. I believe it might have been for 3 years. I'd have to go back and check. I'm not sure if Brad has any other comments on that project.
Sure, through the chair, as an infrastructure project set up to service the Goldfinch area, the way it's been set up, and we set it up as a cost contribution agreement with some of the existing developers going to utilize that line. Moving forward, we'll add that to the master schedule of fees bylaw. And so what the municipality is allowed to do there is when developers come on board to use that infrastructure, we can charge them under that bylaw for their proportional share of the infrastructure and not more than that. And so as additional developers come on board, we will have a levy essentially in place that if they want to connect to that line for a certain amount of flow rate, they'll have to pay a certain proportional use, as well as we'll have utility fees and stuff related to the use of that line moving forward. And then, of course, an analysis that was presented to council a couple of years ago when it was considered putting into that line is the added tax benefit and revenue of when these businesses come into the county. So that does help, well, not directly, it does help offset those costs over time. Hopefully that answers the question.
Typically, it'll come to council as a business case. We don't have a raw water rate at the moment in the utilities bylaw.
Correct. We don't have a raw water rate right now. However, we are planning to bring that to council in the near future
And
to get that implemented.
There's variables with that too. Maybe somebody brings a license as well. Like there could be all kinds of things that affect that may go into that business case as to what sets that up. Right now, it's operating under our license that we had purchased previously. And there's a return on investment that was calculated originally, but someone could come with their own license and just want us to convey it similar to WID, right? And there could be a conveyance fee or something like that, but we will recover costs. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Any other questions? Go ahead.
I think it was quite a few years ago, but we did a kind of shared the budget, did a survey where they went out. We explained the services that are in the budgets and kind of did a survey on what the people thought was the most important. Was that, I kind of feel that you guys thought that was successful. Is there a time to do it here soon again?
So through the chair, I believe that's the one that administration has kind of looked back and obviously amending it or honing it for the current times, but something similar to that from a service perspective. Yeah.
Question I have, because there was lots of talk about bridges here. So the STIP funding, if council chose to go ahead and fund something in current year and there was no STIP funding, that project would not qualify if we built it out of our own budget. Or am I speaking wrong there? Or just trying to figure out, like, STIP funding is only for approved projects. If we did something over and above, that would be out of our own pocket. Say there was 5 bridges, they only funded 4 and we decided to go 5. That would be completely out of our budget. And you could not recover that in a year after.
Yeah, through the chair, that's my understanding, that it doesn't apply to past projects.
Okay, I just wanted a clarification that for council so people know that. And we don't know, STIP funding is pretty much one of the last things we find out about, correct? Or like, what's the process there for our bridge file?
Through the chair, I believe it's early spring. I'm not sure. I'd have to go double check the
So
specific
before we
date.
set the final budget, yeah.
It might be May. So in some cases, it could be after final budget, but we could go back and double check.
So like our process, just for new, like we do an interim budget, which I think is really good. A lot of municipalities you'll hear around here right now are going for a full budget right at the start. And everybody has the ability to pass an interim budget. It gives you that ability to gather that information to see if we want to change direction. And the final, before you set taxes, so before you set the tax rate. So. Go ahead.
I guess that would be a question I got on the STIP funding. So if we decided that we really wanted to do 5 bridges, and would we wouldn't do that internally until we knew whether, like, because say we thought we really needed to do 5 and STIP only gave us enough grant money for 4, right? We'd be on the hook for the last one, obviously, and could not claim it in another year. I'm just, thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, through the chair, I just wanted to add a little bit to that. I know on page 167 of the council package, it just shows the impacts to reserves, and we thought it would be a good idea just to show what would happen if we were to get no STIP grants, for instance, because yeah, we would in essence be responsible. So of course, then council would have to make a decision whether or not, like, how they would want it funded if that were to happen. Obviously, this is worst case scenario though.
This is where, like at RMA, everybody talked about asset management strategy, and they were talking a huge number for all over Alberta. We're all facing the same issues and different variances for different capital projects and replacements, where it interacts with the province, and just trying to let them know how we look forward. And they're lobbying for this as well, but we've seen in the last decline in funding for the last couple of years. We've also seen a decline in taxable revenue from some of the oil and gas things, and the future of that is not always as positive as it was 20 years ago. So that's just the realities of the business that we're in. We have so much to work with and so much to offer. So it's a delicate balance to look for investment and new people coming in to offset the tax base, which we're doing somewhere. And then of course that has costs, and then the return on investment and everything. Go ahead.
Having said that, but these total reserves here that decline, that backstopped in tax increases. You've seen that line before. That's where the money come from, was our reserves. We didn't build any bridges with it.
Any other questions? Not seeing and hearing none. Thank you very much for your presentation. If there's any other questions in the next little while, our staff are always available for, send them an email or something for clarification.
Is that the process going forward? Do you want us just to ask questions as we're reviewing the numbers, or do you want to go through today, or what's the process now?
I believe, through the chair, I believe our plan is, since we have managers here, we've walked through the individual capital projects, and
Okay.
that way, as questions come up specifically, the committee members can ask them directly to the managers that have planned it.
Go ahead.
The question in my head is probably not correct, but we've had a lot of discussion about bridges, the fact that they were down listed at the old rate of the road. New roads are at a higher level, and we can only replace so many bridges at a time under the budget. Knowing full well that farmers have bigger trucks than what is listed on the bridge, where is the liability of this county not addressing dealing with the fact that the bridges are now lower than what an awful lot of the farmers are running? And you can say it goes back to the farmers for running too damn big of trucks, but guess what? That's what's going to happen. And where do we sit here as a liability for not addressing the issue or getting them re-rated to a higher level by using civil engineering calculations, which are always kind of, well, you know what I'm thinking. Thank you.
Through the chairs, I think as far as liability concern, the county does have a responsibility to review the bridges. And so based on those reviews, based on the original design parameters, based on the feedback that we do get from engineering, as well as our ongoing inspections of those bridges, we then do adjust the load rating. So some bridges, of course, that are designed to the 63, 64 ton load rating, if they, we will also, and this applies to some of the bridges that we have now as well, if they're not rated well in terms of their condition, we'll also downgrade those just for public safety. And so as far as our liability, we just have to be mindful that if the bridge condition dictates it, if the original design dictates it, we do need to post bridge load ratings on that in order to protect public safety of the traffic. As long as we're doing that, there's not really additional liability to the county for having a bridge that's rated at lower than what the road is rated at, as long as we're just aiming to be responsible with informing drivers of what bridges they should be driving on with what vehicles.
So what I heard was that by putting up the signs, we basically protect ourselves. If a farmer chooses to drive over that with a heavier load, it's up to him, but we are protected because we have a sign saying it's rated for 55.
Yes, and through the chair,
The
sorry,
reality of it,
through
yeah.
the chair, it is illegal to drive over those bridges with a higher load than they're rated for. That being said, we are seeking to address the issue by replacing these bridges on a schedule. Of course, if council wanted to accelerate that schedule, it's certainly within council's preview to direct administration to do so.
That was one of the, some feedback for you. And you were there, but one of the things we heard at RMA is this is absolutely a province-wide problem. It's not just Wheatland County. And, the Honorable Nate Horner said that, there's not going to be a lot of money in the budget. He I don't know if he actually said that outright, but he'd have to be dead or from Vegreville not to figure that one out.
Go ahead. Just a little history before the tri-drives come in and the Tridem bridges. The bridges in the county were 16 ton. They're Tridem or tandem, they were 16 ton. The highways were 16 and 24 ton. And the province put a big, if you wanted to load up a tri bridge, you had to load it up on the highway. You'd bring another truck and load it up. So the province put on, you know, it really would be nice if you would up the weights on your roads and get with the times, because we got to move all our products to market in a timely thing. And they put a lot of pressure on us. We had demonstrations, we had all kinds of stuff. So we did. We increased that bridge to 24 ton. I think it's 24, it might be 22 or whatever it is. But that increase come at the request of the province. I remember people loading out here in the 21 and 1. They'd follow the Super B out. They'd get to the wider part there and they'd have an auger set up and they'd finish filling it up. So yeah, it's a province-wide thing, but the provinces had a big part in developing it. That's what I want to say. Yeah.
That means that, that being said, at the end of the day, we're the funders of it. We're the approvals of this process. And it's our responsibility to look after them. As an owner operator, I can show you the tickets I've got being in the scale and been overweight. Even just a little bit, it's hefty. Like they don't, the highways departments take this very seriously, because every time they go down the road over world loaded, it wrecks the road. You can, drive through the city of Calgary where they're sitting and you can see all the ruts where the heavy trucks are. And then more axles distribute the weight longer, but it also has other problems to the road because it's a repeated thing. So the equipment gets bigger, there is no doubt, but the infrastructure is not behind it. I'm hearing that the roads were upgraded a long time ago for a weight and the bridges weren't. I wasn't here then. I don't know how that happened, but it happened. So there is still ways people can go. It may be longer or whatever, but our goal is to protect the assets that are here and make sure they don't fail. If someone does go over top of it, and it's their responsibility if they sunk it, their insurance will pay for it, or their farm will pay for it, or the oil company will pay for it through, whatever. There'll be litigation involved, but we have to protect that through signage, and that's why that signage went up. Because the science is behind it too, and the provinces, sounds like they've changed the level of what that is, and that's their purview. They can do that. Maybe before they made us go up, and now they're making us go down. But we're the ones that face the people that have to deal with it on the day-to-day basis. So I guess we're going through the capital. How does council want to see? Do we want to go through everything, or just is there certain highlights we want to see? Go through everything? Cole's notes. We got lunch in about 20 minutes, so I don't think we'll have it done by then, but we have time. We can definitely stay after and go through it. So was that the plan? Was the capital part?
That's correct.
Okay, perfect. Go ahead.
Thanks. So I'll just quickly touch on the summary at the start of the capital package that you received. So you see a summary of by division, the total capital for the current year, the actual. This is the funding section, so that's why you don't see any actuals there right now, because we don't fund things until we do our audit for the current year. And then the remaining 5-year plan forthcoming here. So our focus right now is the 2026 one. This is a summary of the funding methods. And then I'll just touch briefly, as we saw in the PowerPoint presentation, this is our list of capital projects with the criteria of deferrable implication or the type of capital that it is. And we have some notes in here. So when you have time in the evening and you want to do some light reading, you can review this and it'll keep you up at night. Okay, so we'll go to the first section. first project page. Yeah. To Harry to come up and talk with his project.
Morning again, Harry from administration. This project is fiber. We're looking to add a fiber line from administration building to agriculture building to public works. We did separate this because it is related to another project, but we did separate this because it's possible that we don't have to use the full funds. There is an existing conduit, but we're not sure what condition it's in. We're not sure what's in there, if we're able to fit a new fiber line, but we're looking to improve the connectivity. So this budget is contingent on the existing conduit not being able to accommodate a new fiber line. So we're looking to improve the connectivity between the three buildings. Yeah. Let me know if there's any questions. Seeing none, I'll move on to the next line. This is the usual IT equipment line. This year is a little special for computer replacement. Windows 10 is no longer supported, meaning if there's a security vulnerability, they're no longer updating it. So just a little note for everybody. So we're looking to upgrade any machine that we're unable to upgrade to Windows 11. We're looking to replace. So there's a little bit more machines than usual that we will need to replace. But it's just that's what we're given. So other than that, the usual mobile asset replacement phones and tablets that go on the vehicles, and then infrastructure assets. You saw some of the offsite improvements that we did last year. We're looking to continue that into other rest of our facilities. So let me know if there's any questions. Seeing none. The last one is server room updates. So we're looking to upgrade our server room in our administration building. Right now it's pretty small, so if we wanted to do a fire inspection, we would have to move servers around and whatnot. So there's an adjoining room to our existing server room that's just a printer room. So we're looking to knock down the wall, expand our server room to include both spaces, and include some soundproof things so that staff doesn't have to hear any whirring and whatnot. And we're also looking to recables and the electrical room in public works room. So some of these facilities, our servers have been kind of neglected over many years. So we're looking to do an upgrade on that. So all the notes are there. Let me know if there's any questions. And that concludes my portion of the budget.
I'll just go through the next section. So there is no fire capital for this year, so I'll just skip past that section. Just as a note, there is some association capital that gets budgeted for in the operating budget as the county's portion of those items, but they aren't county owned, so they don't show up here.
Hello again, Council. Cody Zimmerman. I'm the manager of operations for our new councilors who haven't met me yet. So I oversee the daily operations of Public Works and also play a large role within the Transportation Department, developing a lot of these road and bridge programs and everything else. So I guess the nice thing is you'll kind of get a break from me over lunch because I'll be up here a long time. So, so to start with is our Hamlet functional area. So this first project is our annual concrete budget. So this is for replacement of sidewalks, curb and gutter, that sort of thing. So we do inspections kind of on an annual basis, keep a running list of areas that where we have damaged concrete and things of that nature, from utility repairs, whatever comes up, end of life, things that need to be replaced. If we have any money left in that estimate left over, we look at areas where, hey, let's try and connect some parts that don't maybe connect properly and make things more walkable and more usable, add wheelchair ramps, crosswalks, that sort of thing. So just trying to make everything more walkable and user friendly throughout the hamlets. There's kind of a little image we put together for this year's. We kind of do the hamlets on a rotating basis. So 1 year we'll do Carsland, next we'll do Gleason, Clooney, kind of mix them up. So big push in Rosebud this year. Again, just kind of replacing with some wheelchair ramps, connecting the community hall to the rest of the sidewalk system that it's not currently connected to, and some crosswalks and things for the pathways, again, that just walk out into the middle of the road. So that's kind of that in a nutshell. There's kind of a big push in Rosebud this year, and you'll see that kind of theme through here because we haven't done a lot of work there the last few years as far as infrastructure goes. So this will tie into some pathway stuff and some road stuff that you'll see later on as well. And really the big thing about grouping some of these projects together is because they are so small and they are so far out there in the middle of nowhere, we get a bigger bang for a buck the more we can do in one shot. And the next section is gravel. There's nothing for this year within the gravel budget. We keep a placeholder on there for a future pit purchase because that will be coming down the road at some point here as we are getting to end of life on some of our pits. And then we get into the hot topic of the day, bridges. My favorite topic to talk about. It's spent a lot of time on it. I have some maps that I'm going to ask Shanna to hand out. It'll make it a little clearer for everyone to see the number of projects we have coming down the pipe for bridges. As discussed, I think multiple times, and specifically in that report that came earlier in the year, we are ramping up spending on bridges. That's become a big focus. We recognize that, it impacts the ratepayers and the network and businesses and everybody. So we are ramping that spending up. Long story short, how this came to be, and I was holding back, trying not to interrupt anybody during the earlier discussion. Basically, a lot of these bridges were built at the same time. They were all built by the province a long time ago. There was a huge push in the 60s for a lot of these bridges that came about. The average lifespan for a bridge is 40 to 50 years. 40, you did okay. 50, you did pretty good. A lot of ours are pushing 60, 70, 80. We have some that are 110. So we've gotten a lot of life out of our bridges, more than most. So we're kind of in a bubble right now as far as bridge projects go. We're looking at spending 50 million over the next 5 years, 100 million over the next 10 years. That'll get us through the bubble to the point where the asset management program kicks in and we're maintaining. That's the big push, and that's the problem we're dealing with. And it's trying to not use all of our reserves in one shot, trying to balance that out. So what we're doing on the operations side, we're doing lots of maintenance, trying to extend the life of some of these bridges, trying to do repairs to get those ratings back up where we can. Unfortunately, repairing a bridge sometimes isn't enough to get the rating up, and that's just because the condition is so poor. And I think that's one point I want to be really clear on, is that the bridges that we have downgraded are not good bridges. These are not bridges that are of good quality that would otherwise, could potentially go up. These bridges are all have a condition rating of less than 50%, meaning they're probably 60 years old. They're really, really poor condition. They have rotten piles. They have been multiple pile splices. The concrete's all spalling out. You can see the rebar underneath. So fixing them, you'll get more life out of it, but that's not going to upgrade the bridge or uprate the bridge. So just something I want to be really clear on is that's why we're kind of hesitant to do those rating inspections. It's because it's not only that it's what can the bridge handle, but it's the poor overall condition of the bridge that's really driving those numbers. Yeah.
Some of those bridges, can't we replace them with culverts, or what's the difference in price of a big culvert to a bridge?
No, that's a great question. So for the newer counselors, the bridge file program refers to bridges and bridge size culverts. And so a bridge size culvert is anything that's 1,500 millimeter diameter or equivalent flow capacity. So that could be two 1200s, could be a 1,500 or bigger. So we get up to like twin 4 meters, very large culverts. The bridges, we have two classes of bridges. We have our major bridges and then our standard bridges. Standard bridges are quite small. They're those really short ones. You see, most of those we can replace with culvert. And we, as a mandate kind of from council over the years, we like culvert. It's cheaper, it's less maintenance, but it doesn't last as long. But when you factor it out over the life cycle of the bridge, generally that life cycle cost is cheaper, even though you got to replace them more often. So we, as a rule of thumb, we like culverts. We like to install culverts. We can install CSP culverts internally, which we can do for 40 to 50% cheaper than contractors on average. We're really good at it. We've been doing it a long time. So we like doing those. Anything that's a structural steel plate or anything bigger, we contract out. Bridges themselves, definitely contract those out. So yeah, anywhere we can put in culvert, we will. This is number one, that's our first option. With that, you get in challenges, some of them with the steepness of the stream banks and things, or how deep the fill is, how big the water course is. Those are the things that might turn that into a bridge, or there's not sufficient cover. We have some canal locations where it's too flat, we can't hump it up, or it makes the road really goofy. And so those places, you get bridges back in. And then just to touch on STIP funding a little bit. So we go, I think Councillor Hebbs had it correct there when this is a province-wide issue, because again, all these bridges were built out around the same time in the 60s. So the STIP program is highly overprescribed to, and basically the direction, we get from transportation is unless it's a 3 rating or under, don't even bother. And even then you might get it, you might not, right? So we only apply for STIP funding for the worst bridges. So basically if it's a 2, we've generally gotten those grants. If it's a 3, 50-50, right? So we got 2 STIP grants last year. One project's happening right now. We got a resource road grant for reconstruction of the CGC road. So that's still underway as well. So we are getting grant funding. We are applying for 4 grants this year for bridge replacements out of the 6 projects we have planned that we think we have a good shot at. So, we are actively looking for those grants. Any more questions before I go into the projects? Oh, you're welcome. I'll try and get through these before lunch, so I'll talk really fast. So as you can see, the list has gotten quite long. The reason for that, these are all in various stages of post-construction, prelim construction, whatnot. So quite a long list. So just what we touched on before, that spending total is going up just under 10 million a year for the next 5 years. So significant ramp up. And so I hope you all have that map now. Blue is what is happening this year. You might see a project on there that you don't see a page for, and that's probably because that bridge has been wrapped into a road project, which is why it is covered in there now. So first one is a Tusas Creek realignment. So this is to replace a 3,000 millimeter unregistered bridge file on Range Road 225 between 274 and 280. Also to move the creek away from the road so it quits washing the road and improve the sag curve because it's quite a dip through that section. Unregistered, again, for the newer councillors, that's something that meets that criteria of a bridge file, but was never registered with the province. So as we replace these things, we register them, they're in the inspection system, they're getting inspected regularly. I think we've found, since in the last 5 years, I found about 10. So that, that adds that to that asset management program. So we got 10 more of these things that we didn't know we had, right? So we're getting to a point where I think we've caught them all. So this one is for to be construction next year and to be completed with internal forces. Bridge file 00467. This one is under construction right now on Range Road 255. So this is post-construction for next year. And we do have a STIP grant on this one for 75% of the project.
So can I ask why, when we redid the road 2 years ago, we didn't do those bridges?
That's a very good question. So I think that road was done, I want to say closer to 10 years ago it was rebuilt. At the time, when they inspected them, they figured they had more life in them than they did, I assume. I know we went in a few years back and put extensions on them. So again, at the time, they must have been in good shape, or at least they assumed they were. What happened is a recent inspection, they went in there and discovered that all the haunches of the pipes were totally rotted out and cracked, and so they were starting to collapse. As a rule of thumb, I replace everything as I go through a road project. Don't like going back, and it's way more costly. Sorry, go ahead.
And through the chair, I just wanted to add something just from an asset management perspective. As these are brought into the asset management program, one of the goals of it is to actually put asset classes together where they can look at the useful life of different assets that might be touching each other like this, and then make a plan of how we can be more effective with this in the future.
It could have been a budget concern at one time too. We don't know, right? It could have been discussed previous, I honestly don't know. Could have been something, an option available, but
Yeah, no, absolutely. It could have been at that time that, you know, it's going to be too much money to replace these. They're good for another 10 years. You know, let's deal with them when the problem comes up. The old philosophy was run to failure because that's your guarantee of, you know, getting grant funding, right? And it was much more readily available than it is now. So there's been a big change in philosophy over the last, you know, 5-10 years.
our philosophy or province?
I'd say industry. So the next one, 7943. So this is a replacement of a bridge over Serviceberry Creek on Range Road 232 between 263 and 263A. So this is directly east of Rockyford. We are applying for a STIP grant for this one. It has a 2 rating right now and is been restricted to 10 ton with a 50K speed limit. And so that is construction next year, replacement with a bridge. The other thing I'll note is when we're looking at these bridges, we standardly replace them to get them up to a 9-meter width, which matches our 8.6 roads. And obviously the full C800 rating, so 83.5 tons, I think is the new rating that everything goes up to. So as things get upsized even more over the years, you know, or in the future, the bridges will be able to handle that. The bridge file 8328. So again, a bridge over Serviceberry Creek. It's 1976 built on Township 262 between 234 and 235. So this would be southwest of Rockyford on the Serviceberry. So prelim construction for next, or prelim engineering for next year. Construction in 2027. Bridge file 8638. This was a replacement of a bridge on 250 north of Strathmore. This one's in post-construction, so it's just final fencing left on that one. Bridge file 9307. So this is a replacement of a 1954 bridge on the Serviceberry Creek again on Range Road 241. So that would be Baintree for those that are familiar with the area. Prelim design as well. Bridge file 13701. This is 1951 wooden bridge over Crowfoot Creek on Township 234 between 222 and 221. So this is for construction next year. It has a 2 rating currently and is restricted to 10 ton. This is be an internal project again because we'll be installing twin 3-meter diameter culverts, and we applied for a STIP grant on this one as well. One of the nice things about the bridge STIP grant is you can actually do the work internally and recoup your costs for it, where you can't with the road programs or any of the other STIP grants, only bridges. Bridge file 7507. This is post-construction. This one just wrapped this fall, and it was replacing a 1953 bridge over the Crowfoot Creek on Range Road 220. Bridge file 7627. We just finished this one internally. Replacement of a 1957 culvert on Range Road 255 north of Carsland. So post-construction next year. Bridge file 73714. This one was a replacement 1953 culvert right by the Oasis campground. That was completed last year with internal forces. So post-construction again, just fencing. Bridge file 73748 was replaced with a 1972 3-span bridge over the Serviceberry on Range Road 233 south of Rockyford. So this is the bridge that's on the paved Rockyford Road, just south of Rockyford. This one is the one we've heard most about. I think that affects a lot of the agricultural producers in the area trying to get to the seed clean plant and everything else. So this one, even though it would be earlier planned replacement, we want to move forward with this one just because it is such a high value to the road network and so well used. So when I say early replacement, I'm talking 2 to 3 years, not 10 years.
Yeah. When you're rating these bridges to 1, I know it's pretty obvious. But being that the weights are so restricted again, downgraded, does that affect the rating at all?
The weight restrictions are a resulting factor of the condition rating, not vice versa. So what I've then done is I've taken all of our projects and looked at what are the worst bridges that need to be replaced now, and what are the ones that might be, okay, maybe could have waited a year or two, but are restricted and are affecting the road network the most. And then, add those in as well. So where I have room.
Okay.
So, I mean, you'll see that some of the stuff we're replacing isn't restricted, but that's because it didn't get restricted, but it's at end of life. It's not worth fixing, needs to be replaced. So you kind of get both streams happening at the same time. Bridge file 74391. So this was the worst culvert I think we've ever seen. It had a 1 rating. So that got done last spring. We got a STIP grant for that one as well. That's post-construction fencing. That was just northwest of Rockford, sorry. Bridge file 74867. This one was a replacement of a 1958 bridge size culvert. Again, post-construction. This one's done. Just fencing. That was North Standard. Bridge file 75300. That's a replacement of a 1960 bridge over Dead Horse Creek, located on Township 254 between Highway 564 and Range Road 194. So just east of 56. And that is prelim for next year. And bridge file 75851. This is a construction project for next year to be installation of twin, I believe it's 3,600 millimeter pipes. So quite large over the WID-A canal on Range Road 255 between 232 and 232A. So that's construction.
Yeah, this is the bridge at my place, and a crazy little question. These are culverts, huge culverts, which are good. And the canal going past our place is used by a lot of summer kids floating the canal or adults drinking small amounts of rum. Are the culverts fairly safe to pass through, or that's not an issue? Just a question.
Well, we wouldn't recommend that you float through them. I don't think WID actually permits that floating within their canal. So just something to point out. There are several of these bridge-sized culverts along this canal. Most of the bridges along A Canal from the Langdon Reservoir coming out, almost all of those bridges are due within the next 5 years. And almost all of them, I think all but one that I can think of, are going to be twin culverts going forward. So, and we applied for a STIP grant for this one as well. Bridge file 75852. So this is a replacement of a 1966 bridge over the A Canal, like we were just talking about, on Township 224. This one's under construction currently, so post-construction for next year. Hoping to have it wrapped by end of the year. Bridge file 76863. And this is just north of the last bridge on the same canal. Range Road 265. So this bridge also has a 2 rating. Has been restricted to 10 ton across all classes. So extremely poor condition. So hoping to get a STIP grant on this one as well. And this will be twin 4-meter culverts. So I think they'll be the largest in the county, actually, once they're installed. Bridge file 79523. It's a replacement of a 1982 3-span bridge over the WID Canal again, located on Range Road 254 between 234 and 232. So just kind of off of Glenmore going south. So that's prelim for next year. You see this one is all wooden deck. So about half of our bridges are all wood and half have concrete girders on them. And then bridge file 80880. This is a replacement of a 1985 culvert on Township 222, east of Range Road 223. It has a 2 rating, so very poor condition. We'll be doing this internally. It's a small WID canal that accesses a single residence. This is their only way in and out if it fails. So we'll get that one done next year as well. And then this was a pipe bore on Township 270 that was completed this year, or I think it was last year. But either way, it's post-construction, so it's just fencing left to be completed on this one. And then that brings us to the ends of the bridges. So.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Go ahead.
You were mentioning that the culverts have a less of a lifetime span. What is like the other bridges you're replacing right now are 60, 70 years, some of them. And what do you expect out of the culvert with the material you're using right now?
Generally, the life cycle for a culvert is assumed at 40 years is the average. Bridges, like I said, are 40 to 50, but can be extended through regular maintenance and everything else. So I wouldn't say that it is standard to get, over 50 years out of a bridge, generally speaking. But the materials are changing, right? So I think the life cycles are kind of getting up to around 60 years now, but still just with the lower overall cost versus the environmental versus maintenance of the bridge every single year, getting inspected on the 52-month cycle all the time, guardrails, signage. There's just a lot that goes into bridge maintenance, which just keeps ramping those costs up year over year over year. So even though, like I said, you might replace a culvert maybe twice within 1.5 of the bridge life cycle, your overall cost will still be less, because by the time you get to that second bridge cycle and replace it again, now you're way under on your culverts. So generally speaking, culverts are just cheaper all the way around, even though you might have to replace them more often. So it's just, you got to be really strategic, I think, as to where you're putting in a bridge. One, environmental impact, water flow, all those different things. So, yeah. And the ag producers just like them better, because you don't have guardrails and signs to contend with. So,
Just on that same thing, like I see the pictures here of these ones where it looks like they're deteriorating at the water level. Is there any studies or anything like that for the different types, like those would have been galvanized at some point to get the lifespan more? Maybe I'm just thinking anode bags or something like that to maybe offset is there any kind of thing like that out there where anybody studies that to see if we can get more life?
Well, there's been lots of studies done. And so the big thing is between a natural creek versus a canal. You get more rot within a canal because you get that water level changing and then drying out, versus where it's saturated and sitting in water all year. It actually preserves it a lot better and longer. But these bridges were all creosote piles, right? Everything today is H piles, galvanized steel, everything else. So, you will get more life out of a new bridge than you will an old bridge in theory. You're not going to rot off like you do on those piles. So,
and then further to that, material wise, is there ever plastics in these bigger culverts, or is it just always still the galvanized steel, probably for structure?
Galvanized steel. The big thing is that they do testing on the water and the soil alkalinity and everything else, determine, okay, well, maybe we should make this one thicker, right? So that it doesn't get eaten up by the ground or the water more, things like that. In the old days, everything was thick and heavy and it lasted forever. And they don't still make things like they used to, as they say. So, it's more about increasing the thickness, increasing the level of galvanization, that sort of thing now. And really, when you're going to a structural steel plate, it's more about the size than it is about longer life or anything like that. You can't make a CSP, a regular culvert, any larger than 3,300. So once you pass that mark, you're going to a structural steel plate regardless. When we're doing the replacement assessments on these, we will look at things like box culverts or flat arch culverts and different things like that, and see what could work, what's the cheapest option. The goal is to always pick the most cost-effective option that's going to last the longest with the least amount of maintenance. And so that's all part of the prelim engineering we do on these bridges before we replace.
And just one last question. So is there consideration for the next 60-year cycle? Is there a way that you could oversize it a bit and then have an insert that would go in there?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of those engineering and design you know, I guess principles with climate change, you know, and for the future. But it boils down to budget as well. So if you got the money to oversize it, you're better off to, because then you can put that liner in the future and get more life that way without having to dig the whole thing up and for probably 50% of the cost. But you are paying for that upfront, that exercising. So.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I'll just second the thought about oversizing. Like in the city now, they're doing that quite a bit where they're putting the nylon stuff through and then putting some heat through it and reconditioning lines without ever lifting I would guess a culvert's too big for that, but that technology's there. With the challenge facing the overall province, is that something you could ask some of your peers about and see if there's some technology coming?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard anything along those lines. I mean, slip lining is I believe what you're referencing, and they do that on smaller culverts and stuff. And we have a project in here for a project in Carsland to slip line a 1200 culvert. So there are definitely technologies like that we will look at as options. But yes, the large culverts, you can't really do that with them because of the weight and everything that you're dealing with. Typically what they do is they slide a steel pipe in there and then grout around it. And so, I mean, if we do look at that option, definitely as like a number one for replacement on these. That 255, so the one you were talking about where why did it to get replaced when the road was done? That one, the bridge inspector, he said, you know what, this is a great candidate for slip lining. You guys should do that. We took that to the province, and because of fish passage regulations, they denied us on that, which is why we had to go to full replacement, unfortunately. So that would have been a much more cost-effective solution, but environmental rules as they are.
Thank you for that information. That's actually, because we hear it from the ratepayers, and that's actually a really good answer back. So thank you very much. Any further questions before we break for lunch? Seeing none, thank you very much. And we'll continue this on. We'll just park this for now and come back to it. Council want to go to one? Do we want to go to quarter to one? One? We back here at one? Thank you. We're back to our committee whole for November 25th, 2025. We'll be resuming with capital budget. I believe we were on page 41, round and about that. Mr. Zimmerman's here presenting, so please resume.
Hello, Council. Cody Zimmerman again to keep you thrilled with some more projects here. So moving on to road construction. First off, I want to point out an error on the map that I made. I admit I made a mistake. There's this orange one right in the middle. That was a copy and paste error. Please ignore that project. It's not a project. So I didn't get a chance to reprint them before I came back up. So please ignore that one on your map. So with the road construction, as we kind of touched on earlier, I look at projects where we have public safety issues. We have, additional operational maintenance, things like that going on. Importance to the road network, roads that we're going to improve, like maybe plan for surfacing in the future, things like that. And so I kind of have a criteria to go through and figure out the highest priority being public safety. And obviously traffic counts and things play a big part of that. So what washes out is this 5-year plan. And I kind of try and balance it with the paved, or used to call it the paved program, but now we call it the surfacing program because of all the different types of surfacing involved. So just try and balance it out so we don't get really heavy in one year and we might see more work in one than another. So the first project is just this right-of-way alignments. This is just a year-over-year budget that we keep going to correct any kind of right-of-way issues we stumble across. Usually there's a couple that come up a year where through development or subdivision or something, we identify that there's some right-of-way where a piece of it's not right and we want to correct that issue. So that budget's just maintained there. Anything bigger, we will bring back to council if it's a high dollar amount or a major issue or a controversial issue, whatever it would be. One of them was this next project with this Range Road 220A. This was one that came to us, landowners came to us and said, hey, we found this, that this road is not, within the right of way, it's on our land. We want you to correct this issue. And we've been working with them over the last couple of years to try and get all that sorted out. So we're happy to say we've signed land agreements with all these landowners now. this road is back under county, control and maintenance. And basically this budget is just carryover. We're waiting on land titles to approve the agreements so we can pay everybody. The next project here is Range Road 243A. This one was built a couple years ago, so it's just waiting on some power pole moves from Fortis and some final fencing. So it's just in post-construction. And so that's the Nameka West access, as we call it. The next one, so this is one of our first year for one of our big reconstruction projects that's coming online here. So Range Road 254 and Township 230. This is reconstruction of 1.44 miles of Range Road 254 from Highway 24 to Township 230, and reconstruction of just under a mile of Township 230 from Range Road 254 to Highway 817. So prelim construction next year, survey work, prelim design, 2027 would be land and environmental, and then 2028 construction. So one thing to keep in mind, most of these reconstruction projects generally run for about a 5-year period for the new councilors. So first year prelim, year 2 is detailed environmental approvals, land, all that stuff. 3 is construction. 4 is usually regrow the grass, fix any deficiencies. 5 is your final fencing, take out the temp fence. So 5 years for any project at any time. Bridges usually run about 3. So here's a map. This kind of shows that line there. So this project was kind of brought to our attention because of the high traffic volumes. It serves as the main access to the Oasis campground and golf resort there. It sees traffic counts of 269 cars per day, peaks at 288 cars a day. So that is seasonal. So we see that spring to fall, and winter it gets down to closer to 100 cars a day. So high volumes. It is substandard. It has organics in the road base. It is narrow to our normal standard, poor drainage along the road. And then we did replace the bridge file in 2024 that's on that road. So that should help keep the overall cost of the project down. We did widen that culvert in anticipation of the road project. So shouldn't have to touch that area. And the next one here is Township 222. So this is for, I'm sure everybody's familiar with CGC. So this is that roadway that enters, accesses CGC. So we did get a STIP grant on this one that covers 50% of the road construction. And we do have a cost contribution agreement with CGC, so they're paying for the pavement. So really, really good deal for the county. And so this will be post-construction land payments next year. We are monitoring. There's some elements we might have to carry over. So this budget might adjust when it comes back in December slightly. Township 240. So this was our really big road project for this season. And reconstruction from Highway 24 to Range Road 270. It's about 4.5 miles altogether because we're also building into Cheadle and realigning that intersection. And the main focus of that is to get the traffic from the farms and everything else out of Cheadle, because there's a lot of speeding issues, a lot of speeding concerns. Get all that traffic out of Cheadle. Nobody will want to go through there. There'll be a stop sign and it'll all be 30. So we're hoping that will, appease those residents. And then also upgrading the substandard road along there. The last west 2 miles was mostly dirt trail that had gravel on it, and it was getting to be busier and busier, and we were getting cars stuck down there every winter. So carried all that into it. So there is a 3/4 of a mile that didn't quite get done on this project. There was also a bridge file that got replaced. So there will be some carryover for that 3/4 of a mile into next year. And so this budget number will potentially change again, just kind of for final approval in December. So just something to be aware of, but we made really good headway on it this year. And there's the map for you, just to explain everything that I said. So this is this piece that was not there before, and then we've now constructed that. It won't be open this winter, unfortunately, because we haven't dealt with the S-curve and the T intersection realignment, but it will be open in the spring. Township 250 alignment correction. So this is Township 250 and Range Road 214. This is the only part of the Township 250 that jogs within the county. The rest of it is a straight shot all the way through. And so what happens is there's an old rail line that runs to Hazar along here. And basically that's why the road deviated. The county retained this land when when the rail line was turned or sold or however that happened over to the residents. So we did retain this portion to complete this alignment at a future date. And so we completed prelim engineering on it this year. We're looking to do this with internal forces next year. This budget cost that you're seeing is a contracted cost. So I think we could probably get that down a couple $100,000 doing it internally. So it should be a fairly short project. We're talking 6 weeks probably max. And that is to correct that alignment, increase safety at the intersection so the trucks don't have to slow down and make that S curve going around the 250. Township 264. So this one we started prelim engineering on this year. This one was on the books previously back in 2019 where we did prelim on it once before. That engineering pretty well expired. That's been over 3 years, so we had to redo it all. That's kind of the risk with deferring a project that's already in motion, is that you can lose that work you've already done, right? Environmental work is only good for 3 years from the date it's been done in the field. Utilities, pipelines can get put in, power lines can get put in, things can change. So once you have to basically, if you don't carry on a project to completion, you run a very high risk, and that's that deferred with impact, right? Of having to redo stuff and pay that money twice. So it is quite costly to defer an active project like a road project like this. So I always recommend if you're going to look at deferring road projects, do it before year one, right? So the projects you're looking at, okay, we're going to start year one. Those are the ones you want to defer because you're not, cost benefit, right? So basically on this one, the main thing that brought this road to our attention is the Range Road 201 intersection. So that's a blind intersection on the backside of a hill. It's quite dangerous. It's high impact potential. We're fairly fortunate nobody's ever been hit there to date, because if you're pulling out with a B train, it could be quite dangerous if someone came over that hill with speed. So that's kind of the main driver that brought this to the forefront. But then on top of that, this road is a substandard road. It's quite hilly. There's bad sight lines all along the road. We do spend additional resources there in the wintertime, putting up snow fence and bringing in cats and stuff on bad winters to clear it out. So it does have a lot of issues overall. And we anticipate it'll get quite a bit busier than it is currently once it's upgraded. And I know that the landowners in the area have been waiting for this project a long time because they were all originally signed in 2019. So they've been waiting for it to go ahead for quite a while. So year 2, detailed design and enviro approvals for that project, and then construction in 2027. And so Township 272 Rosebud West access. This is just post-construction for deficiency repairs and things. This was completed this year to alleviate some flooding issues that's one way in and would trap residents in there in the spring melt. So that's happy to have that done. Township 280, this is also post-construction. So this one was done a couple years ago. We're just waiting on the utility provider to move the power pole still, and that's all we have left on that project. So. And that's it for paved roads or road construction, sorry. I will note on the map that you will see some roads marked as future. And the reason those are marked as future is just because those are ones that have prelims starting within the current 5-year budget, but the construction lands off of the 5-year budget. So I just noted as future just to, doesn't add confusion. Sorry.
So with that Township 250 realignment, do you sell the old road, or what do we do with that? Can we sell that? Because I would assume there's a landholder between the two roads and below it.
So through the chair, we are the landowner between the two right-of-ways. So that because that was the tracks, so we do have title of that portion of the land. So typically, you can't just sell a right-of-way. We could sell the land between them, but if one of the adjacent landowners wanted to buy the right-of-way, they'd have to come forward and do a road closure application. It's quite an involved process because it has to go to bylaw hearing, and then there's ministerial approvals, and it takes a couple of years to actually do it all. But if one of them has interest in it, they definitely could bring that forward, and we could give them the application process. Any further questions on road construction? The only other thing I'll note as we go into the surfacing program, paved roads, as noted on the budget, is that some of these roads you'll see on here weren't through the 5-year budget I just listed, and that's because if it's being reconstructed and surfaced, right, you'll see it on the paved road budget, but we still show it on the road construction map because it is a road construction project. So there's some overlapping things. So paved roads. So this, as I noted before, this contains anything that's high price repairs, rehab, overlay, maintenance, safety, hamlet roadworks, and rural roadworks. So our first project is Gleason Chip Seal Overlay. And so this is overlaying the existing chip seal roads within the eastern portions of Gleason, basically everything east of Highway 547. Again, chip seal is a volume driven price, like the price is driven by volume. So you're gonna get a contractor to go in and do an overlay on the entire east side of the town. It's all about the same condition because we did it all a number of years ago. So try and get everything, just get a good overlay on it, bring it up to snuff where we don't need to touch it again for the next, 5 to 10 years, hopefully. The west side of town, we did review as well, and it was in better condition. So we're not recommending to do that at this time. Muirfield Cots Close paving. So this is just prelim. I'm sure as most are aware, we did the top lift paving and concrete repairs throughout Muirfield this year. Had really, really good success with that project, very minimal complaints. We're really happy with it. We learned a lot from some of our projects in Carsland and took notes and hopefully did a better job. I think everybody was really happy with it. So with COTS, where these next 3 projects within Muirfield, this is prelim for construction in 2027. Again, looking at the road base for repairs, concrete repairs, that sort of thing, doing the top lift. So that's these next 3. So that's COTS and the other half of Muirfield Crescent, which would be from about this point right here, Muirfield Close north, up to the new north entrance, and then St. Andrews Close, which is into the water plant, this portion here. And so finishing all that done off in 2027, hopefully being wrapped within that community, and it's been a long time coming. So the next one, so as I touched on a little bit earlier, within the Rosebud Sidewalk Program, this one kind of ties into that as well. So this is the Severn Ave and West and Comstock Street paving. This also loops into ties into a water line looping project we're looking to do in Rosebud this year, which my colleague will touch on later. But we'll be looping the water line for between Comstock Street and Main Street for water quality, fire flow, development, all of those things. And we know that there's some proposed residential housing and stuff that'll be coming to MPC, in the future and things. So they're waiting for this water line looping. But so the Severn Ave West is very badly deteriorated. I think you're aware that we talked about it a bit last year. We did some extensive cold mix patching to try and get it through to this year. It's in dire need of resurfacing. So with that, obviously that sidewalk project along there as well. And then in Comstock Street, we have some drainage issues on the south end, as well as some valve replacements and things need to be done on the north end. So looking at paving that whole loop around Comstock Street, because we currently dust control it annually every year, and the buses use it and everything to drive through there. So it'd be nice to get that all the utilities in place, get it paved so we're not digging things up twice. And then the pathway and the sidewalks and everything will all tie in real nice and get it pretty well buttoned up and done. And so here is just kind of the map to show what I'm talking about. Severn Ave west of the highway, and then Comstock around Railway to Main. So Range Road 243, reconstruction and paving. This is reconstruction and paving of 6 miles of Range Road 243 from Highway 1 to Township 232, which is down here to Jamaica. Again, this is a big project kicking off in 2026. It'll be the first year prelim. This project's been on and off the books for quite a number, probably 20 years or better, I would say. And so the traffic counts on this road are averaging 400, 700 cars per day, peaking at 746 vehicles per day. So quite high traffic. The threshold that we use for break even on paving is about 400 cars a day, and that's from Alberta Transportation and the studies they've done. So that's where your maintenance versus paving the road, where your payoff is. And so this well is well and above that. It's quite a narrow road, and I'm sure anybody that's driven it in the winter can attest it's quite hazardous, or can be quite hazardous. So looking to, and it also has a 75% ban on it. And there's a lot of industry down there. There's campgrounds, there's a couple other things. So it's a main access for a lot of things. And then that industry traffic pushes off onto the side gravel roads because they can't use this road because of the 75%, right? When they're hauling out of there. So it's putting pressure on the side roads, creating greater traffic there that we're then dust controlling and whatnot through our dust control program. So the hope is to get this main artery reconstructed, get it paved, and the traffic will probably increase beyond what we're already seeing again. So. And that is the wrong map for that project, so I apologize for that. So we'll get that changed out. Yeah, we'll get that one swapped. So Range Road 260 MRO. So this one is to apply MRO from Highway 24 south on Range Road 260 to Township 250A to the Johnson Park Gate. This was the Johnson Park Road, as we call it, Township 215A. That one was reconstructed 2 years ago with the intent to apply MRO to it. So we see 90 to 263 vehicles a day on this road. That kind of is weekday versus weekend traffic. In COVID, we were seeing 500-600 cars a day on this road. So, but 260, high 260s, it's kind of the average. Peaking at 347 vehicles a day. Also, we have the Carsland Fire Hall and the Carsland Waste Transfer Site on this road. And on that north end, we see a lot more traffic. So that would be done internally. I don't know if the new councillors or if you're familiar with what MRO is at all. I can go into that quickly if you'd like. So MRO is maintainable road oil, and basically we mix slow cure cutback asphalt oil with gravel and compact it, and you get kind of like a pavement-like surface. And I say pavement-like because it's not pavement. The nice thing is it's cheap to put down. It's easy to fix, right? And we could do it all internally. And it works as a nice stopgap between, have a gravel road that you're trying to keep dust on, mitigate dust versus putting down pavement. It's a nice stopgap. So kind of the sweet spot where we use it is around 200 cars a day to 300 cars a day-ish. That's kind of where it works the best. When you start hitting closer to 400 cars a day, it starts breaking down, not lasting as well, we find. And that's kind of where you start looking at pavement anyway for that break-even option. Anything under 200 cars a day, it's like, is it really worth it to put it down? It's just trying to find that sweet spot. That's where we find that calcium is better off on those roads that are under 200 cars a day. So that's kind of where the threshold we use is that 200 mark. Also ensuring that it's getting applied to a road that's been reconstructed, within relatively recent years. Then the reason for that being, if it's got a poor subbase under it, it will just continuously bust up and break out on you. So we don't recommend it for any road that hasn't been upgraded to at least got all the organics out of it, or built since like the 80s, I would say.
How does it stand up to truck traffic? Because all these rural roads are farm trafficked fairly heavily.
Well, that's a good question. And, we find it's not bad. And again, that kind of goes to those traffic volumes. If it was a road that we're seeing 200 vehicles a day and it's all trucks, probably not going to hold up very good at all, and we'd probably recommend paving that road. But generally your 200 per day car traffic, it's just fine. If you're seeing, you know, maybe 20, 30 semis a day, you're probably okay. You might get a little more rutting and stuff in the surface, but then like I said, the nice thing is that we can go back if we're having a bad spot or something, we can go in there and relay that in a day, a couple hundred meters, not a problem, in and out, and you're back to new. So it's a great stopgap product. And on these higher volume roads where maybe there's not a lot of residents or something, and you don't really, the cost of paving isn't really justified. That's where it really shines.
On the Hamlet stuff, have you looked at using MRO instead of the chip seal?
We have, and the problem is how you mix it and how you apply it, right? And trying to windrow gravel in there and mix it back and forth and get it down nice and not wreck all the boulevards and everybody's grass and work around all the valves and everything else. It's really, really difficult. And seal coat or chip seal, it's a lot easier to work that gravel, lay the base in, and then you just spray it on top, right? And so you get a nice smooth surface. As we redo roads within hamlets, we try to upgrade the paving if we have the budget to do it, because we don't got to touch it for the next 20 years. Chip seal, we will be going back anywhere from 5, 10, 15 years guaranteed, just depends on the traffic levels. Typically on our rural roads, or chip seal, generally about 5 years it starts to deteriorate, 7 years you're pretty well at redoing it. And so you'll kind of see that on this road over here. We overlaid that in 2018 last, and so now it's breaking up. It's getting to the point it needs to be redone. We were forced to do a bit of an overlay on it, on a portion of it this year, just because it was potholing so bad. We were out there almost weekly patching it. So we had to do something to get it through till when this reconstruction project happens.
Just one more question. I remember a few years back, we bought it, I think in a budget, we had a new chip seal machine. Are we still doing that, or we don't have the machine at all anymore? Or?
Through the chair, we do have that machine. We are still using it. We just do smaller projects ourselves. Things that we can do more cost effective than a contractor, you know, repairs, especially where we're replacing a culvert in one of our roads or whatever, or even within the hamlets and things like that. We've done utility repairs. We're doing smaller jobs with it. The bigger long mile jobs where we did 10 miles overlay over on Rockyford Road this year. It's more cost effective to hire that out, because basically what we've learned is that our contract price versus our internal price is almost the exact same, but they can do it 3 times faster. So
thank you.
So the next project, oh, sorry, here's the map for the MRO job. So this probably happened about July. And for any of the new counselors that are interested in the MRO, 245 just over here from the shop, that was MRO a couple years ago. So if you're interested, that's sort of nice and close to take a look at. Range Road 270 reconstruction and paving. This is from Township 221 south for 0.26 miles. This is a really short piece of road, but it experiences a lot of traffic. So 746, 769 cars per day with a peak count of 876 vehicles a day. Basically, we can't maintain this road. It's a gravel road. It's substandard 1960s construction, and we could blade it every day, and it's extremely rough, and we just can't maintain it. So we've been working with Nutrien, talking with them, made some really good progress. We're in talks on a cost contribution agreement for the paving for it. So we're hoping to have that signed before the end of the year. So that'll help bring this cost down considerably on this project. Again, this is a contract price that's in this budget, but we are looking at performing the road works internally for the short sections, pretty small. So that should help bring the cost down again. So and the other thing we're looking at doing is wrapping the paving of this roadway in with some other repair work and things we have going on in operations, which hopefully drive that pavement cost down a little more. So Township 221 south from 270. So that's if Nutrien on their very west side going south from the T intersection.
Is that on the boundary road?
Yes.
With that, I was at a Nutrien event not that long ago. They're having a large turnaround shutdown this year. They're talking 1,600 people. So with this project, they're fully aware this is going to go on during that.
Yeah, so we have again been discussing with them, and yeah, they're basically doubling the traffic during that time over this next year. I think they're started now, I think, until July of next year. So we'd be going in August essentially, and is what works for them. So their shutdown should be complete by end of July, and then we'd start the construction.
Yeah, just as long as they're in the loop, that's great. Thank you.
Township 250 reconstruction and paving. So some may remember this project. This has been, we're going into year 4 of this project. So we did prelim and detailed design the first 2 years. This year we reconstructed 1 mile of Township 250. The bridge on that road is rated a 2. It's due for replacement. It can't accommodate paving anyway. So it was getting replaced as part of this project. It unfortunately could not get completed this fall. So it will be deferred until March, and then it will be done before the melt happens. Well, fingers crossed. So our contractor assures us that they can get it done. So that's why you'll see a bit of a higher budget on this one in 2026, is because we are carrying almost $1 million on this project into 2026 from 25. The nice thing we saw in this project this year is that the contractor was able to come in almost $1 million under budget when we tendered it. So I was really happy to see that. It was a huge savings right off the hop. So this will essentially, the plan would be replace the bridge in March, and then base and pave from 817 to the first 4 miles. So I believe that's 260-ish. And then the last 4 miles would be in 2027. And that reason for us, allow that bridge file to settle for a year and everything, so that we don't have any issues with our new pavement.
Would this be a better candidate for MRO than paving with the vehicle counts?
It definitely could be an option. I guess the issues I see, we've seen traffic counts on the east end, the first couple miles, of up to 380 cars a day at times on different times of the year. So there is high volumes in that, and not so much on the west end. But all the gravel roads around this one are quite high volume. We see 100, 150 cars a day on all the roads that attach to this one. So we anticipate that once this is paved, the traffic volumes are going to get higher, quite a bit higher, and it's going to be the main artery through the area. The other thing is it does connect to the grain elevator to the west. So eventually, I mean, Rocky View's got 2 miles on their side. We will have another 2 miles we need to do. And then we could see a lot of B-train traffic traveling from, east of 817 down this stretch to that grain elevator. We also anticipate there's going to be a large increase in just local traffic from like Lakes Muirfield and areas like that coming to Strathmore, trying to avoid that intersection at Highway 1, because we all know that one is extremely busy. So we anticipate there's going to be a lot of traffic diverting down there. Right now we have fairly high counts on 244, and that's coming in. I guess the thing with, you got to understand with 244 is when you're first coming out of town, it's 1,200 cars a day, and that is mostly Strathmore traffic going into Highway 1. Once you get past 255, we're getting 250 plus cars a day all the way to Range Road 264, which means that traffic is our traffic, and it is traveling there to get to that road to go to Muirfield. That's exactly what's happening. And so that road itself it's a narrow road. There's more to be reconstructed. It would take more to upgrade that road than this road, because this one was already built over the years to be that way. So upgrading 244 would be a lot more costlier than upgrading 250. So, and 250 hits nicely square in the middle of the block. So you got equal distance from both ways and everything else. So we do anticipate that the traffic will probably double or triple once it is paved.
Thank you.
And that's it for paved roads. Any other questions? Unfortunately, you still have me for longer. You you thought I was going to walk away, but I didn't. So as my role as manager of operations, I also get the privilege of doing the fleet budget. So I'll try and keep that one a little quicker. It's a little more straightforward. So our first project is just a replacement of a 1-ton truck with a crane. This is used by our sign technician. Our threshold for replacement on small pickups is 250,000 K or 15 years, whatever comes first. So this one is 8 years old. It will have 250,000 K by the time we replace it next October. So up for replacement. Also, the crane is from Italy and we have a heck of a time getting parts for it. So next on the list is just 2 3/4 ton pickups to replace 2 older pickups that will also be over that 250,000 K mark by the time of replacement. It's just general crew trucks, so we just rotate them through the fleet wherever they're needed. The next one is a 35 kVA genset. So this is used in the wintertime primarily by our gravel crew because they operate off-site within stockpiles, gravel pit locations. So just to keep things plugged in and running in the wintertime. And it will have over 10,000 hours by the time of replacement. 938 wheel loader. So this is to replace our current unit 245. It's 2008 loader. It's 17 years old and will have 10,000 hours by the time of replacement. So those guidelines for hours and years are guidelines, and we don't hold fast and hard to those. So just something to keep in mind. If we can get more life out of something, we will run it longer until it isn't worth it anymore. So this one has some extensive corrosion, rusting of the frame, rusting all the hydraulics. It's primarily used in the yard for culvert handling and loading salt. So it's lived a hard life. And then replacement of 2 Class 8 highway trucks. So this will be used by our gravel crew. These will have around 475,000 K, 10,000 hours on both of them by the time of replacement. These we will be purchasing 2 trucks with a little bit more horsepower for pulling our B-train units that we purchased last year. We've had really, really good success with those units. Very happy with them. And I mean, our production has gone through the roof. Problem now is we just don't quite have enough horsepower, so they're struggling on the hills. So these 2 new trucks will go to those units specifically. The next one is a D6 dozer, and that is to replace our current unit as a D5. And it is 11 years old and will have 10,400 hours by the time of replacement. It's also coming up where it needs a full undercarriage replacement, and a motor's probably going to be not far behind. So better to get rid of it now before we sink a couple $100,000 into it. The next one, this isn't a replacement. This is a new unit that we're hoping to purchase. It's a snow blower unit to go on the 938 loader. And the reason for that is we currently do have a snowblower unit that goes on a John Deere tractor. It's not great. It's good for shooting windrows, but it's not good for breaking through snow drifts and stuff. And we found that you may remember a few years back, and we had about 12-foot drifts on some of our roads out east, and it really struggled to be of use out there. So we're hoping that one of these types of units will have a lot better success breaking through areas of high drifting and severe drifting. Also, the current unit we have is not high enough to shoot into the back of a truck, so it's kind of useless for cleaning streets within hamlets and whatnot. So we're hoping to use this for that as well. So that'll speed that up, make it more cost effective to clean roads within hamlets. Not looking to get rid of the other unit because redundancy is a big part of what we do. So it would still be a backup in the event this broke down, we needed it, or if we had to run 2 units out on the roads, we could do that. Effluent waste tank trailer. So this is a new unit as well. I say new, but we're going to buy used to try and keep the cost on this as much as possible, because this is a stopgap for hauling effluent out of Muirfield. We have 2 of these trailers currently. We run 1 full-time driver currently. We are running our second unit 3 days a week right now to try and keep up. And that number just keeps going up year over year over year. And so we know that we're a couple of years at least away from the lagoon solution. So we don't want to hit a point where, you know, we can't keep up with the waste that we're seeing. The problem we're having currently is if a unit breaks down, it goes in for service, we can't haul with it. Now we're running overtime, we're running Saturdays, trying to keep up to it. So we'll be purchasing this third unit, and then we'll be bringing an ask back to council later for an additional position to operate it. So we're running these 2 trucks full time, and then the third one would be reserved for downtime and when repairs are going on, servicing, that kind of thing. But again, buying a used unit so that we're not keeping the cost down.
How much does that cost us? Run them and
Oh,
buy them? Do we have that broke out, or is that?
we have those costs. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. It's a lot of numbers on the budget day, but we could bring that back to council as well. The next one here is a peace officer unit. So replacement, they run on a bit of a different timeline for replacements, typically 5 years and 185,000 K. And that's because the computer systems within them get outdated, right? And so trying to keep everything up to date so it works with what the RCP have and what we have. And so it can be, you know, $20,000, $30,000 for you upgrade those units. So replace them every 5 years. The current unit we're looking to replace will have 185,000 K, but it is already 9 years old. So we have, it's kind of served as a backup unit. So looking to replace that one. Roll-off bins. I believe Joel touched on this earlier. So this is a carryover. We are in the middle of refurbishing bins. We ended up purchasing 47 bins from Drumheller Waste Association that they were no longer using. We are refurbishing them. We've got about 6 of the 47 refurbished to date, just because we've been busy with other things. But we will have this program up and ready to go for April of next year. We have 2 hook lift trucks that should be here before the end of the year to run these bins. And so we're moving this service in-house, and we anticipate we're going to save somewhere between $200,000 to $300,000 a year on our operating budget by doing this internally. So huge savings. And that should translate to savings to the villages as well. So I'm sure they'll be happy about that, just for the bin hauling. The next one is a new unit. So this is a sheep's foot compactor. We currently own one of these units. It's very integral to all of our operations. We use it on a number of our projects. The problem is we only have one. So again, that redundancy is key. That unit's been down for 8 weeks now. So we've been, scrambling to rent machines and get machines in place. So because we rely on compactors for everything we do, for culverts and roads and everything else, basically need one almost on every single job that we do. So it's a very key piece of equipment, and we only have the one. So looking to get another one, and then provide that redundancy and keep everybody running more efficiently and quicker, so we don't stop projects or delay projects. So this equipment and tool budget, this is a year-over-year budget that we maintain just for general shop replacements, compressors, pressure washers, hydraulic jacks, things like that don't have a standard timeline and they blow up, and then we need to replace them. So 60,000, sometimes we use it all, sometimes we use half of it, just depends on what breaks on a given year. High dollar items. Also used to buy like new diagnostic tools and things for all the different equipment as things change over the years, upgrading stuff. The next one is a replacement of a 150 horsepower tractor. So this is used by the surfacing crew, primarily for sweeping shoulders and whatnot in the in the spring along the paved roads. And then also used for MRO application, running discs and pulling wobbly packers, that sort of thing. This current unit is 28 years old, 7,500 hours on it. So there's one where it doesn't accumulate a lot of hours every year, but we when we need it, we need it. And obviously the age shows that we've kept it a long time. The next one is 2 Tridem belly dumps. Both of these units are 12 years old and they have around 400,000 K on them. So just end of life, time to replace them. We're starting to get cracks and things in the frame, and the airbag systems, I believe on both of these, you can't get parts for anymore. So it's been kind of a problem, and we're hoping to not redo the entire airbag system on both of them before we have to sell them. And then the next 2 are 2 end dump trailers. These are triaxles used for stockpiling by our gravel crew and for other repair operations. Again, both of these are close to that 350,000 K mark. We do have extensive cracking in the frames on both of these. So we've done a lot of welding on them in the last 2 years and continue to see problems. Excuse me 1 second. And our next one here is a new unit. So it's a wide angle mower. I'm looking to purchase a 14-foot mower. We did obtain a couple more of these a couple of years ago. And so we're running 2 mowing crews now. So that's, we have 5 mowers for 4 operators. So again, when one of these units goes down, it's usually for 6 to 8 weeks because it takes so long to get parts. So again, looking for redundancy, replace one of the older units and put a new one in there for operational. And then the older one will just go in as a backup when we need it. And the next project is a 4-post hoist. This has replaced our shop hoist for doing oil changes, servicing of our pickup units. It's very integral to our operations. This one is currently about 20 years old. We had it inspected this year and it basically it barely passed, to put it lightly. Passed with the condition that we need to replace it next year, or they're going to not pass it again. If we go to fix it, it's going to be about $20,000 to $30,000 to replace the rams and everything on it. So, I mean, you're about 80,000 for a new one. So it doesn't make much sense to try and get it through when it's already 20 years old. It's more cost effective to get a new one. Also, we need to purchase a heavier one anyway, because our equipment's gotten bigger. As like everything, the trucks get bigger, and the buses and everything else with the handy buses and all that stuff that we do, and the plow trucks with the sanders and all that. They just keep getting bigger and heavier. And that brings us to the end of fleet. There is one project that will be coming on the December budget, which you're not seeing here, and that is for gas pump replacements. And the reason it's not on here is it came up very last minute, and we're still getting quotes. But it'll be about $80,000 to replace the pumps here at the main shop. Basically, they are end of life, and we can't get parts for them anymore. So we have about 4 to 5 gas pumps that we need to replace. So that was kind of a surprise. But we've gone through the rest of our inventory on our gas pumps, and put a life cycle and cost and everything to each of them. So we'll be more prepared going forward. Any questions on fleet? Perfect. I'll turn it over to Jose. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council. Jose Pollo Cuervo. I'm the Manager of Technical Services here at Wheatland County. I oversee the county's water and wastewater operations and capital projects. So yeah, that's what I'm involved with, as well as all the report writing that goes on in the background. Let's go through the storm drainage. So we have 2 projects here. So the Carsland Culvert slip lining on Range Road 260. This is one that's come up recently. This is considered a major artery for the stormwater in Carsland. It all comes down south, and then it goes underneath a few of these houses across the highway. And we've recently done some camera work, and it's identified that this is in dire need of repair. So we've got $250,000 in the budget to do slip lining, which is where you essentially put another pipe through and just reinforce it. So next up, this is the Gleason berm control upstream of the drainage ditch. This is one every year with the snowfall. all of the stormwater essentially flows south and it goes into Gleason. And so this is just to construct a berm, or sorry, next year will be the engineering cost to construct a berm, just so we can control the flow of that stormwater as opposed to it flooding over as it currently does. And then in 2027, it would be the construction. And that's it for storm drainage.
Just a quick question on that one. So the person that owns the land north of that the water would back up on to their land, it looks like. What do we do about that? Is there, I mean, if his land is flooded because we've built a berm, is that
Through the chair.
addressed?
Yeah, so that would be addressed in the engineering of it, for sure. We would coordinate with the landowner and hopefully.
Okay.
Sorry, through the chair, just to supplement there, we actually are the landowner
Oh,
immediately north and then.
well, that solves that. Thank you.
There we go. Sorry, any other questions from Storm? Nope. Okay, going on. So next up is water. So similar to the STIP grant funding, we also have the water equivalent grant funding, which is called the AMWIP, or the Alberta Municipal Water and Wastewater Partnership. So I've got right now 4 projects being submitted for grant funding. And similar to the STIP, we don't know when we're awarded it, but it follows the same kind of rules. Unfortunately, it does require more information up front, so I am still working with my engineering team to put those together. I will outline which ones we're applying for, though. So kick things off, the first one we're applying for, the Carsland Water Reservoir Replacement. So this is a project that we initially did a study on in 2021, since there were quite a few cracks showing and some mildew. And the study came back that we should just patch it up and then take a look at it in 5 years. And 5 years has now come. So next year's, we've got $500,000 in the budget to take a look at the reservoir. We predict that the cost of repairing it will be close to the cost of replacing it. So, but next year we will be looking at the engineering for it just to do that feasibility assessment. And then the next one here, tied very closely to the Carsland to the Carsland area, is the distribution header replacement. So this one has a bit of a backstory in that Carsland used to treat their own water at a water treatment plant. And then in 2014, it was actually converted to a pump station, since the water was is now being pulled from Speargrass. So this water treatment plant is now just a glorified pump station. It's a lot of it has been demoed, but the basement just operates as just a distribution center. And then, so with that, the project here is to do engineering for next year. This one is also being submitted for grant application, and our engineers have actually recently just done a cost analysis on this. If we were to replace the reservoir, it would be very cost effective to also add a booster station to that, replacing this pump station. So this is something that my engineers are currently looking at right now, is putting both those projects together. Through the chair. Yeah, so just a small section right beside, because the idea is that we also own the land across the street from the water treatment plant. And so we build the reservoir and then just a small booster station right beside it, but not some large water treatment plant thing that we're currently working through right now. Yep.
So when you say that's original and it doesn't look good because there's a little rust on it, but is there a way of measuring how thick the thickness of that steel pipe still is? Like, is it compromised or is it just ugly? And then how long ago was it built? Thanks.
Through the chair, yeah, so we actually got a study done by McElhaney. They did a non-destructive test, and they did that 3 years ago, and very similar to the reservoir, they told us to look at it again in 4 or 5 years. When they first did the study, they found that it wasn't integrally damaged or anything. There is corrosion, but it is somewhat surface level. So the engineering will be done for next year to reassess whether how damaged the header pipes are. So yeah. Next project is the Muirfield raw water aeration. This is one that this is a somewhat recent event that happened in that the residents of Muirfield complained about cloudy water, and it all came back to higher manganese levels. And through science, I'm not going to explain right now. It's because of low oxygen in the water. And so a way of solving that is to essentially force air into the water through aeration. And so that's essentially what this project is to aerate the water and to force air all through the raw water reservoir. So that one has $350,000 budgeted for 2026. Next up is the Muirfield UV system replacement. So this one follows a similar story to Cody's bridges in that there's essentially a bubble or a wall coming of infrastructure costs, and these UV systems at Muirfield and Speargrass are both now outdated. There's another project, I think it's the next one up. And the UV system is just something, it's incredibly integral to the treatment of water, and the UV system that we are currently using is no longer manufactured. So this is more a proactive measure as opposed to reactive, because it would be quite detrimental if anything happened and we couldn't replace it at the water treatment plants. This project is also being submitted for AMWIP application. So next project is the Rosebud water main looping. This is one that Cody had talked about earlier as well. While we're doing some of the road work, we're also going to be looping the water line. And as Cody alluded to, it's to help with the water quality and fire flows and a bunch of other benefits. But Cody and I will be working on this one, both of our departments, with $680,000 to do a water main looping here. And it will also help support some developments that we're expecting in Rosebud. The
railway tracks, sir?
Through the chair, yeah. So this is the old railway tracks. This is the Sandy dump. I need to confirm if it actually crosses this or if it actually just loops up here. I'll come back to you on that one. Next project, this is the Speargrass erosion control. This project came from an engineering report that came in that identified that we're seeing significant erosion along the Speargrass wells. So this is the well here. And so this is just next year doing some engineering to figure out how to fight the erosion, and then the following year to do the construction of it. This is a project, the Speargrass water treatment plant inlet flow valves. This is a project that we're also applying for grant funding. And this is to replace our current flow valves just so that they can work with SCADA. A project that we had this year was to upgrade our SCADA program, and this is something that was identified in that there's some upgrades that could be done here, and I believe there's some corrosion that my water operators have noted here. So next up is the Speargrass distribution header replacement. This is one that similar to Muirfield's header replacement, we're finding significant corrosion. And all this being said, the water plants right now do not have an asset management system tied to them. And so something that the county is doing next year is to actually have an engineer come in and assess the life expectancy of every pipe inside of our water treatment plants. Right now, what we're finding is that almost all capital projects related to inside the water treatment plant is quite reactive as opposed to proactive. And so this is one that we found. You can actually see here, there's a missing pump. There's supposed to be 3 pumps. And it's just something that we've caught quite late in that there's quite a bit of corrosion. And so when we took that pump out, we had the divers inspect the other pumps and the other pipes, and they found that they were quite corroded. So this project has 40,000 budgeted for engineering and then 150 for construction. And is also, if I didn't mention it, is being submitted to the AMWIP. Speargrass UV replacement. So the same story as, Speargrass UV system replacement. This is the same story as Muirfield's. The UV system is no longer manufactured. And so trying to be proactive about it, we are looking to replace the entire UV system in Muirfield. Or sorry, Speargrass and Muirfield. And that takes me to the end of water. Are there any questions?
Not seeing any. Go ahead.
This is for water specific to Muirfield. There's nothing, there's no capital projects tied to this one. And then now we're into sewer. So the first project here is the Clooney Second Ave wastewater line replacement. This is one that we had cameraed, and it came back with revealing that there was quite a bit of line sagging and quite a bit of debris in the line. So this is going to be engineering for next year, and then just the complete replacement of this line in the following year in 2027. And the big one here for the wastewater is the Muirfield Wastewater Lagoon. This project is currently wrapping up a bit of preliminary engineering, and administration is investigating a few locations and strategies for handling Muirfield's waste. Next up is the Speargrass Lift Station Control Panel. This is one that it's located just southwest of the water treatment plant, and it communicates to that water treatment plant so that it can update its SCADA and all this. But the communications goes down, and our engineers have found that it's actually because of the cold weather. They've advised that we should be moving this control panel to somewhere inside, and the closest place is actually just outside of this picture. You can't see it, but we have a little generator shack that they recommend moving everything into so that it can communicate with our water treatment plant. So an alternative is that we can construct a little shed around it, but we think it's going to be cheaper just to dig a line and put it into the existing building. And that's it for sewer. Is there any questions for sewer?
Keith?
And
Just a question. I know there's a lot of discussion about corrosion, and water is a universal solvent. There's no question. Are you taking a look at different materials in certain locations that would make sense? There is a lot of places do that, and just a question.
Through the chair, yeah, absolutely. It's something that we have our engineers review. They bring back a report on the feasibility of different materials and the different life expectancies, and it's all outlined in their report. And then from there is what we decide. They outline all the different options, and then we decide which option to go with and what makes the most sense for sure. All right, now passing it off to Cody for waste management.
Me again. All right, so for waste, we only have a couple of projects here. First one is the Carsland Waste Transfer Site fence replacement. So this is to replace fence on 3 sides. Front fence is in really good shape. The other 3, it's old page wire and T-posts, and it's falling down most of it. So it's just end of life, time to replace it. We did Wheeland West this year, so turned out really well. Lyalta Waste Transfer Site. So this is for engineering, detailed design for a waste transfer site within Division 5. We are going to be bringing a report back in December on this one for council decision, and then that may or may not affect the budget depending on what council decides. So there'll be more to come on that one. And then the last one here is oil shed replacements. So this is replace the existing oil sheds at our transfer sites, which are currently basically, livestock shelters, for lack of a better term. So they're all pretty well end of life, falling down. There's not fixing them anymore. So we'll be looking to replace them with this style of building with a roll-up door, get everything inside, out of the weather, so we're not getting contamination, leaking on the ground, and that sort of thing. And that's it for waste.
Good afternoon, Council. Brad Bullock, General Manager of Transportation Agriculture, presenting the Agricultural Service Board budget. So a few line items here. The first one here is a 1-ton truck. So this is just a replacement of the existing 1-ton truck and lift arm. This one's just aging, requiring more maintenance, and so long-term, based on the feedback, it's cheaper to replace it at this point than to continue to maintain it. On the next page, so this is actually a combination of 3 project pages that we're going to see. So it's the mower, the sidearm, and tractor. So right now we do have 4 units. Council will recall that we replaced all of the grader mowers over the last number of years with these sidearms and 15-foot mowers, which are doing quite well for us. And the big reason for that at the time was just that the grader units, we couldn't get parts for them anymore. These ones do mow a wider strip, and so they are nicer for the roads in that regard. This particular unit would just be allow us to have a spare unit, which currently we don't have. And so these units do go down probably more frequently than we would like. And so when they do, it does leave us a unit short for getting that work done. And so this would allow us to have a spare unit on hand. So there's this one, and then there's this, and there's the swing arm, and then there's the tractor. So I'll flip through those ones, but all three of those are combined essentially as one project and one mowing unit. So the budget item is for CCAN. This would go into the public works yard near the Agricultural Service Board building. The purpose for this is to store the herbicide equipment. Right now, it's stored within the main shop, and it can get a little bit cluttered with that. And in addition, with the chemicals and things, it's nicer to have this stuff stored separately. So the team had suggested this is a cost-effective way to have a place to store this equipment in the summer and over the winter, so it can get moved out of the main part of the shop.
That's just meant to be 40 feet long, right?
Oh, yes, I think you're correct. Yes. Yeah, that's a typo there. It'd be a 40-foot long CCAN. Thank you. This is also a recommendation from the team as a new seeder. Just a seeder that's more functional for certain areas, getting into certain areas, also on slopes. One of the things they're finding is when they have the difficult locations or on slopes, they do have to sometimes go back in and reseed. So this piece of equipment will help them kind of just get it in there once and get it done, and also get into areas that are right now hard for them to access. So it's just the mower attachment or the seeder attachment. And I think that brings us to a close, with the other ones being, sorry. This last one is the shelter belt demonstration site. So this is something, a program under the ASB for planting shelter belt demonstration sites. So we've done one out here at the main facility. There's another demonstration site in Rosebud currently, which it's going to get finished off next year. And then there's a new one planned. Well, not a new one, but one still to be going near Carsland. And so this is actually just a carryover of the original budget that was approved for this, just to finish off those three sites and those three projects. So I believe the original budget was $60,000 for that, which has been carried over a few years, and this is what's remaining of that to finish off those projects. This is the other capital project for the swing arm for the mower unit. And then this last one is the tractor unit for that assembly as well. And that brings us to the end of the Agricultural Service Board capital budget. I'm here for any questions.
Not seeing any.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council. Jose from administration presenting the facilities capital projects. So there's a few projects here that are just from the admin building, and these are all essentially just end of life items. The first one here is the admin building washroom renovation. There's been quite a bit of patches and fixes that we've had to do throughout the years, and the washrooms from in the admin building are all from the original build, and they're just all at end of life. So $90,000 to do the upgrade and replace it for next year. Next project in the admin building is the flooring, just replacing the flooring. There's been a few incidences of trips and falls just because of some of the places in the admin building just have the carpet just a bit dug up, and with the salt, it just eats away at the floor. So $85,000 just to replace all the floor. This one, the makeup air unit, is 25 years old, and again, similarly, it's at its end of life. This one is more of a hazard issue since it is located in the hazard bay of the public workshop. So looking to get this one replaced here so that there's no possible incidents here. After that, I'll hand it over to Cody since we share some of the facilities.
All right, last time you'll have me, I promise. So this first project is the Public Works Yard Master Plan. So that was a project started a couple years ago where we bought this land to the north of the shop, and we've now since expanded into that area with the new salt shed and our gravel stockpiles, relocating them over there. So lots of room for the future. And with that, doing planning for the future and how we're going to use that area, so we're not moving things twice and that sort of thing. So we did develop a plan initially, and then the first stages of implementing that is this project, which is doing a stormwater assessment of the entire parcel and area, and then to design a stormwater solution, because currently we're losing a lot of our runoff onto the neighboring lands and stuff, and we don't want to create an environmental issue or contamination issue or anything like that with our neighbors. So developing that stormwater plan, and then also when we're designing the new area into the future, we're building that as we go, and for the future stuff. Also within that is environmental assessment of the wetlands and things within that area. And then also assessing our existing tank farm for secondary containment and make sure we're to code and everything on that, so we don't have any contamination issues. So design next year, and then possible construction 2027, depending on what comes out of that engineering. The next one is Public Works salt shed. So some carryover funds. This is probably actually going to go up before the end of the year. Just so council's aware, we just got word that on the new salt shed, the doors have been delayed. Probably won't be here till February, so we'll be carrying that cost over into next year. Some pictures of our old salt shed, and that is the so the next one here is main yard fencing. So this just ties back to that new piece to the north. That's currently barbed wire fence. We had chain link fence cross between the properties, so we had to remove a large portion of it when we built the salt shed. So we'll be establishing a ditch along that north side and then putting the chain link fence there to keep the site secure. And then the last one, so again, you see salt shed. And so what this project is separate of the new salt shed. This is to demo the existing building, to tear the tent down, its end of life. And then we're also there's a little bit of funds in there to do an assessment on the cement foundation to ensure that it's in structurally good, integrally solid. So we have another project planned, hopefully for 2027, if the building comes back good, to do a possible equipment shed or some kind on there, because we are desperately lacking indoor winter storage for our plow equipment and stuff. So we're hoping we can revamp this foundation and have a huge cost savings, already having a floor and a foundation, everything there. So fingers crossed that the assessment of the foundation comes back good and we can keep it. And turn it over to Dave.
Welcome, Dave. Did you have a question?
Thanks.
Oh, just hang on.
Yeah, the only question I had is for infrastructure, what about my blind?
Go ahead, Dave. So I have two projects. One is a continuation of the multi-use pathways. In 2026, we have the Rosebud connections. We've worked with Cody's Maps on the sidewalks to do the pathway. I'll show you the map on that. And we've also included not only the pathway, but a washroom facility as well. So the pathway linkage go down Comstock and around over to back over here to Main Street kind of thing and around. And then this section here. So all along the park. And then the new washroom facility is included in there as well, right there. It'll be a prefab building, pump out. And it can be your, no, it will not have heat. You could still use it in the winter. It'll be a pit toilet. You still can use it, but it'll be no water, no water. And then the next project is Wheeland Shores, some building repairs in 2026, a building roof, some siding, and just kind of a walkway that's sunk down that we're just redoing for one of the washroom buildings. So That's it for projects for community services.
I don't see any questions. Thank you. Oh, maybe.
Would that be in the future heated and water put in it, or what is there? Be like a holding tank in it now, or?
Yeah, the site will be a prefab, so it'll be a holding tank and it'll be sat on top of that holding tank. So there's no plans for, unless council wants to give direction for that, it'll be a lot more expensive than that.
Well, only nice, well, it's just the upkeep, I guess. But once you have water in it, the sewer's there, the water's there, everything's there. Pump out is extra, right?
Yeah, the pump out's extra, but it's a lot more of cost in servicing and maintaining it year round with heat and water and stuff as well. So servicing costs will be, it'll probably almost triple the cost of that project to service it.
High ask in Rosebud. I think they had about 70,000 visitors last year. How much difference have you worked it out, or?
I could bring some back the next time this comes. I think I do have the cost roughly what it would be, but I'm guessing about 3 times. So let me see what.
Just so I had a number when I get asked.
So I had about 165. So I upgraded. Okay, it'll be 250 for the pit toilet total. So I bet you it'll be double that to have it serviced.
Okay. Definitely better what's there now.
It's actually a pretty nice unit. I'll maybe get attached when we present it. I'll bring some photos of the unit. Actually, it's very similar to one that's on the beach at Chestermere. It's pretty much. I'm not sure if that one has water in it, but it's a nice size unit. I'll bring some more information.
Okay.
The next meeting on what that prefab toilet is. It's quite. It's not. It still can be used year round, but it's not. Doesn't have water and that. But I'll bring some photos of it and some more information around that.
Okay, thank you.
I think the one that's there now is missing a door.
Yeah, I think we did the repair on that, so I think the door's back on. But yeah, that's the issue with those.
Or anything further budget wise that we're presenting today, or operating, or?
We still have 2 hours of operating, but no, I'm kidding. No, just to wrap up, I just wanted to say appreciation to the managers for all the work. As you can see, all the detail they put in the justifications and the pictures they provide and everything that goes into the package. They do a lot of great work, and it's a privilege to work with them. So and thanks to the committee as well. In terms of wrap up, if the committee is, as we kind of discussed initially, like as per prior years, if you're okay with sending emails as you review the package more detail on your own time. And I believe we would give about a week. I think it's December. Sherry could provide that exact date.
Through the chair to the committee, it was requesting comments, direction, inquiries all by December 5th to allow time to put it in a report for December 16th.
Okay, council clear on that? Go ahead, Glenn.
I don't know if this is a good time or not, but when I look through the financials, I see a whole line, a whole page of fire, but I don't know what it's for. What I would really like to know, and I don't know if I take a motion or not, but each Strathmore West, how much does that cost for heat, power? What do we spend on it for labor, everything, and then Carsland, and then Gleason, because they're all county owned. Because I know the other ones are associations, and they're working off of a 30-year-old an agreement, right? And they're starting to run out of money. And I want to be able to compare county owned to association owned, and are we being fair to both of them? Because they're spending a lot of money to buy fire trucks and whatnot now.
Through the chair to the committee, Mr. Chesson has prepared that report once before, and if I recall, there wasn't an apples to apples comparison. We can recirculate that report, and then if you want to give feedback on what you would like to see that wasn't provided in that report, we could bring back a revised report. But we can recirculate that because it listed the R3 halls and then the rurals based on what kind of things that we were able to get through the financial reports. There were some things that we weren't able to track. I don't know, Joel, if you can recall that report and some of the details.
Yeah, so through the chair, that's correct. It was more of a summary on the specifics for the county-owned halls, because obviously we have the specific financial information on what we pay to run them in that context, and then comparing them to the annual funding for operating and small equipment and some of that with the association-run halls. At the time, we didn't go into their specific financial statements just because each financial statement sometimes in the background has their own nuances, and but we can bring that back forward and provide that again.
How much money we're giving them, right? We can divide it by 5 or 6 fire halls, and we know how much each hall is getting, right? So is it the same as what Carsland is getting? Is it the same as what Strathmore is getting per unit? That's the only way I can think to compare it. Because the associations are paying for power, for utilities, for repairs to the trucks. They're paying 40% of new trucks. They're paying all that. They're paying for equipment. So what are they paying for in Strathmore? And is that the same amount of money?
Through the chair to the committee, we can revise that because it's missing some of those details that you're pointing out.
Yeah.
So we can revise that. It was a matter if you needed that for the interim budget or if it's something we can bring back so we can get the detail for you in January.
Information for me.
Okay, no, we're happy to put that together.
We'll have to get through budget first. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Anything else? You've wrapped up, right? Correct? Yeah, thank you. Well, I just want to say thank you to all the staff that came and all the operating staff that have brought the reports forward. As usual, it's very in-depth and a lot of information, and we just have to figure out how we're going to fund it. And that'll be another discussion in the future shortly. But yeah, I think council has a direction to, if they have any information that they want further or some suggestions, you can definitely email through our interim CAO. And she will direct it through to staff as to what needs to go. So, okay. And then we have one more item on the agenda for today, 3.3. Oh, sorry. We need a motion to accept the 2026 interim capital and operating budget as information.
So move.
Motion's on the floor from Deputy Ruth Laprice. Any further discussion? Call the question, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Move on to 3.3, Wheatland Regional Partnership Meeting Request.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Council. Sherry Bars with administration to present options for Council's consideration to have the next Wheatland Regional Partnership meeting. At the November 4th council meeting, Council discussed hosting the next Wheatland Regional Partnership meeting, and so administration is seeking council's direction for 2 preferred dates so that they could be forwarded to the partnership group for consideration, and then to confirm member availability. So possible dates for council's consideration includes December 2nd, December 9th, or December 16th.
Are we thinking about an evening or an afternoon or what do we normally do? Sorry.
It would most likely have to be an evening. Most of the other councillors and the other municipalities work, yeah, for sure.
Any of those are good with me.
2nd, 9th and 16th. Yeah.
My thought would be, you know, probably earlier rather than later, because you're gonna bump into some other Christmas stuff that, you know, there's probably 25 or 30 of us coming or something like that. I don't know. Be quite a bunch of us, so earlier rather than later from my viewpoint.
The 9th, okay. There's a conflict on the 9th. It could be quite a challenge to get a bunch of people together in this time of year, but we can try. Try to get as many as we can. I foresee it's going to be very difficult to get that many people in that short a time frame. That'll be the next discussion. So in the past, agendas, I believe, were submitted up to like the day before. I'd like to see something, if we're hosting it, we could, from what I remember, the host municipality takes minutes. The host municipality provides whatever we want, a meal or whatever, something's, you know, and we should have probably the agenda open, I would say, at least close it at least a week beforehand so we can get the information needed. I don't like last minute things. It's, you know, whatever's discussed there, I would think would be best. I don't know what council thinks.
I think we should try to keep the first meeting sort of non-confrontational. We should try and come up with an agenda that's not too.
Well, it's in the past, it's been an open agenda. If people want to bring something up, they can. They just got to be a closing time before, because maybe something's important to one of the municipalities.
I see they'll,
Right.
so
There was
it's not
agenda
us
items
coming with
accepted.
the agenda, it's us asking for people for agenda.
Yeah.
items. I see, understand.
Yeah. So we could accomplish the intermunicipal meet and greets that we've had in the past. We could probably accomplish a lot of them at that same time and kind of do that format and then discuss how they want to see the WRP move forward as a group.
Yeah.
And we could do that too and accomplish that goal.
I like that idea.
I think we should keep something simple like pizza or something like that, nothing fancy. Because people may eat, especially a lot of people may come from work and had something to eat on the way there or something, or no coffee and donuts. It's too much sugar and coffee at the end of the day. Try for what, 6:37 or something like that. Give everybody a chance to get there. And then usually we had just our CAO attend. I don't think we have the need to see any of our other direct reports attend. But, well, it's kind of intimidating for some of the villages to have 4 GMs or 3 GMs there and a CAO. Like, so. So is that enough information? We don't have a date.
That's 2. If, as you can see, the motion, we're asking for 2 dates so that we can circulate it to the regional partnership, so that we can get as many members available for a particular date.
2nd and 9th. Anyone else? Someone make a motion. We can
make a motion. And December 9th.
Okay.
Back up.
Motion on the floor. Any discussion? Counselor, you already said the 9th doesn't work for you. Okay. For sure. It could change a lot. And then we'll do it in the county office here in the ECC room. Yeah.
Have you got a room big enough?
Yeah. Or sure we do. Yeah. Yeah. There's nothing booked in that room at that time.
Through the chair to the committee, we'd have to confirm, and then based on the numbers, we could decide whether it's in the EC room or in the committee room.
So motions on the floor. Any further discussion before I call the question? All in favor? That's carried. Do we need a motion for me to write a letter, or will administration write a letter? Just email through administration.
Through the chair to the committee. No, it was in the report that administration will send off those dates and try to coordinate and then confirm that with council on the date and send out at that time. Request for an agenda and keep it that it is for a meet and greet meeting.
Perfect. Anything further? There's nothing else on the agenda today, so I will adjourn this meeting. Have a great day.